All right, let's get it. Drive time. Friday afternoon, 16 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. We're a little late today because Scott Mitchell told me about a dream he had where he was naked. So we're starting the show off like that. Thank you, Scott, filling in for Sean today. Misbehaved during crosstalk. Happy Friday to you. Congratulations, you made it. It is time for the weekend. You did the things all week. You showed up, drug yourself out of bed, got everything done, and now you made it to the weekend. Take a big old deep breath. Happy Friday to you. It's time for a weekend edition of the radio show. It's good to have you with us. My name is Spence Checketts, hosting the program today. Porter Larson behind the glass, producing, booking, doing all the things, making sure we behave and stay on air. We got a lot to get to on the show today. The Utah Jazz are back in action tonight. If you're into unwatchable basketball, they're going to take on the Indiana Pacers at 5 o'clock Mountain Time. Pacers are playing for things that matter. They might play hard. The Jazz, of course, are intent on losing as much as they possibly can to draft Cooper Flagg, who today was named the AP Player of the Year. He's only the fourth freshman in the history of that award to win it at that age. So we'll do some Final Four. We'll get you ready for what should be two really good games tomorrow. College basketball. We'll get to some of that on the program today. The women's Final Four as well. Dawn Staley, Gino Auriemma. Fun night of NBA basketball last night. Really good game in Los Angeles between the Lakers and the Warriors. And, of course, the NBA rolls on tonight. Only a handful of games down the stretch we come. It's time to clinch the playoff seeds and such and then play for some postseason awards. So we'll get to some of that on the program today. Utah men's basketball has a second piece of the puzzle dialed in. It is a transfer. We'll tell you who that is. After Keanu Dawes withdrew his name from the transfer portal and decided to come back to play for AJ and his staff next year, the Utah men's basketball program locked in a transfer today, and we'll tell you about him. Put up some really, really good numbers a year ago at Fairleigh Dickinson. We'll get into that on the show. RSL back in action tomorrow. They welcome in the LA Galaxy for a 2:30 kick, an early kick out at America First Field in Sandy. Utah spring football rolls on. There's going to be a scrimmage tomorrow that we're actually allowed to attend, which is nice. So we'll see what sort of information we can gather at Utah football scrimmage tomorrow. Of course, we'll bring that to you coming up on the shows next week. Major League Baseball is underway. We've got a little golf to talk about as well. It's the Valero Texas Open. It's the final tune-up before the Masters in Augusta coming up next weekend. We are just a few weeks away from the NFL Draft. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter on display today at Colorado's Pro Day. Discussed this a little bit yesterday. Caleb Lohner tried out for the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll see where the Utes and the Cougars end up going, drafted, undrafted free agency and such. NFL Draft right around the corner. Our first guest right out of the gates, the GOAT himself, Adam Mikulich from KUTV. I was on TV with Adam this week. Usually do the TV hits with Dave Fox, but Dave is taking another one of his extensive vacations, as Dave has been a media member in this market for 40 years without ever working a day in his life. So shout out to Dave Fox. But I was on TV with Adam this week, so we're going to bring Adam in, and we're going to just talk about the local sports landscape. It's our weekly conversation with Zach Harper. We'll get a little Valero Texas Open primer and do some Augusta with Paul Pugmire, some Masters with Pugs today. Thor Nystrom, friend of the show, stops by for some NFL Draft. And then one of our celebrity reporters, Dave McMenamin, will stop by later on the show. So Adam Mikulich, Zach Harper, Paul Pugmire, Thor Nystrom, Dave McMenamin, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners, happy Friday. And that guy, Porter Larson, Scott Mitchell, right out of the gates, hits me with a dream that ended up with him naked on a scale. I don't really know what to say about that. Do you have any reoccurring dreams you'd like to share with our audience?
I don't really have any reoccurring dreams, but to maybe make it less uncomfortable, I think most people are dreaming naked. Unless you're sleeping in a bunch of clothes. Aren't you naked in most of your dreams?
I don't want to talk about this anymore. I didn't think you were going to take this direction.
Yeah, I'm always naked when I'm dreaming.
So whenever you have a dream and you yourself, you're in the dream, you're not wearing any clothes?
No, I'll be wearing clothes in the dream, but I'm sleeping.
No, I wasn't saying Scott was naked while he was dreaming. He had a dream about himself being naked while he was competing in The Biggest Loser.
Okay.
I have no problem with anybody sleeping nude. I just don't need to hear about your dreams where you end up naked on a scale. It just ruins my Friday.
Well, that became a reality TV thing. I know he wasn't like fully naked on the scale on whatever channel that was. But once Biggest Loser came around, he was in his underwear on a scale on syndicated television. So, hey, fun times.
You know what? Let's move on.
Why?
Because it's time for the opening tip, man. We've got business to take care of.
Seems like the story of the day.
We'll get back to Scott Mitchell being naked on a scale later. But Adam Mikulich is going to join us. Before we get to Adam, courtesy of our good friends at Prize Picks on a Friday afternoon. It is. And I apologize for the start of the show. It's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
Shout out to our good friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Now, springtime is here and baseball season. It's officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, take your pick of more or less for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash today. On Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. Download that Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 at checkout. They're going to hook you up with $50 when you play your first $5 bet. You don't even have to win that bet to get the 50. So as I say every day, just go get their free money and then give it a try. Okay, so download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game all season long. All right, so we've got a busy show, a lot to do. The Utah Jazz are in action tonight. Get a lot of NBA basketball. We'll get to a lot of fun Final Four conversation coming up in a little bit. But some breaking news about an hour ago or so. Alex Jensen and the University of Utah men's basketball program have dialed in their second piece of the puzzle after Keanu Dawes decided to withdraw his name from the transfer portal to come back and play for AJ and his staff. Terrence Brown, a sophomore transfer from Fairleigh Dickinson University, has committed to play for AJ, Coach Chilius, Wes Wilcox, and whoever else the staff is. As the story goes, Terrence Brown knows Rafael Chilius. Remember when Coach Chill, that's his nickname. I still need a cool nickname because, it seems like everybody has them except me. But after the hiring of Coach Chilius, a lot of people talked about the ties that he has around the country to AAU basketball, high school basketball, college basketball, the pros. He's been on all four levels, essentially, and is known as a high-level recruiter. So Terrence Brown, familiar with Rafael Chilius, and apparently that's the relationship that landed Terrence here in Salt Lake to play for the University of Utah. Now, Terrence Brown, as a sophomore transfer, according to On3, he is a 4-star transfer portal rating athlete. His portal composite ranking is 91.33. That is out of 100. So he's played a couple of years at FDU. His freshman year last season, played 21 minutes, about 22 minutes a night. He averaged 8 points, averaged about 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He is a wing, about 6'3", 6'4", 175, and he had a great year this last year. So played about 35 minutes a night, shot 45% from the floor, 30% from three. You want to see that up a little bit. 76% from the line. But how do you like 21 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists for Fairleigh Dickinson University, as Terrence Brown is now going to be a University of Utah Ute. So there you go. You can follow Terrence. Looks like his Twitter or X or whatever the hell Elon's calling it these days, at Terrence T. Brown, if you want to give him a nice welcome as he joins the University of Utah as Alex's second piece of the puzzle. We talked about this yesterday let's see. No, that would have been yesterday. Yesterday was the start of the dead period in college basketball recruiting. So what that means is you cannot have any athletes on campus. There are no in-person visits. It only lasts a week. It's just like, okay, let's get the Final Four done. Let's get the season behind us, and then you're allowed to kind of, recalibrate and do the face-to-face stuff and have players on campus. So according to Deshaun London, he reported yesterday that Terrence Brown had a Zoom call with Alex Jensen, Coach Chilius. My guess is Wes was on that call as well. So again, 21.6 boards, 3 assists, put up some great numbers for Fairleigh Dickinson University. And, before you roll your eyes, as far as FDU, there are a ton of players, including Johnny Broom, who plays for Auburn, who played at small schools a year ago and are playing for the best schools in the country right now. Okay, so this is a model that has worked for a lot of different teams. Fairleigh Dickinson University, of course, is not a P4 school, and it's not a scenario where, you're going to be blown away by the competition that he played against. But this is a model. You go find a player that put up some really good numbers at a smaller school, and then you do your calculus and your calculation about whether or not you think that can translate, and then you give them an opportunity to play a little P4 Big 12 action. So we'll get to know this player a little bit more. 6'3", looks like he was more of like a lead kind of combo guard for FDU, but again, can really score. Probably want to see that three-point shooting percentage up a little bit from 30% as he continues to grow, but only sophomore. He'll be a junior here playing for AJ coming up next year. So, as we've been talking about, we have been waiting for word about exactly how this team is going to look. It's impossible to analyze really anything about AJ's first year in the Big 12 without knowing who his players are going to be. So, we have Keanu Dawes out of the transfer portal, committed to play for the Utes next year. Now, Terrence Brown, a very highly thought of transfer out of Fairleigh Dickinson University with a composite rating of 91.33 out of 100. And a 4-star transfer portal rating. He has landed here in Salt Lake and will play for Alex coming up next year. All right, Adam Mikulich is going to join us coming up on the other side. We'll kind of bounce around the world of kind of local sports. We'll bring in Zach Harper. We got Paul Pugmire, Thor Nystrom, Dave McMenamin. We'll get back to some of this Utah basketball stuff as the show rolls along on a Friday drive, and it's good to have you along for the ride right here on ESPN 700. now in place. All right, Adam Mikulich, the GOAT. Although, Adam, I am disappointed. I'm looking across from myself in the studio. I don't see you across from me, man. I thought we were doing this in person. What gives?
I am so sorry, man. I just caught up doing some errands and stuff today, and I got to be into the station here at 3 o'clock on the nose, so I didn't want to cut it too close today. Sorry about that, man. There's nothing like doing radio in studio, especially with you.
No, all good, because Dave Fox is on another lengthy vacation. I just need to ask you, how has Dave had a 40-year career without ever working a day? Just out of curiosity, because I'm honestly impressed. He's like a mentor of mine. 40 years in this business without ever working a day.
Well, that's the goal, right? And there's two schools of thought. There's the old cliche, find something you love doing, do it every day of the rest of your life, and you'll never work another day of the rest of your life. I'm calling BS on that from the top of Mountain Spence. It's just not that easy for our generation. Let's put it this way. When it comes to Dave Fox, he's got a lot of quality people that he surrounds himself with, and I like to think I fit into that umbrella. So when you've got a nice umbrella like that going, life can be pretty smooth.
Oh, well said. And we tease. We love our guy Dave. But of course, Adam Mikulich, the GOAT. And Adam, I refer to you as the GOAT because somehow, some way, regardless of how dire the circumstance or situation, you hit us with positivity and anecdotes that kind of bring a smile to people's faces, even when stories are hard. I wonder where that comes from. I wish I was more like that. Where's that approach come from?
Oh, that's just about one of the nicest things anybody said to me in a really long time. In all sincerity, I have really, really good parents, and I'm one of those guys too, where I don't have children myself. So when you talk with somebody and you get to know somebody, there's something that they bring up quite a bit, right? And so anybody who has kids, they love talking about their kids. They've got pictures of their kids on their cell phone or pets. I don't have a pet too. So when I come up on conversation and I talk about good things that are going on in my life, it somehow always comes back to my mom and dad, who are my best friends. My dad is what I like to refer to as a Hall of Fame caliber track and cross country coach going back home. So in my house growing up, sitting down at the dinner table together was a big thing. Athletics were a huge part of our existence. I was taught to try and break a sweat every day and just put your best foot forward. And so, again, I was raised in a really, really good household with two really loving parents. And I guess I just try and spread the love around and pay it forward whenever I can, because I'm a pretty lucky guy.
You're also a pretty big dude. For people that don't know this about Adam, are you 6'3"? It feels like you're about 6'3".
I'm 6'4".
Okay. Right.
I'd like to be about 210. I'm a little bit heavier than that. And one of the funniest things about me, Spence, is I have a size 17 shoe, and I've worn a size 17 shoe since I was 16 years old. It's one of the weirdest things about me. And as a kid who was 16 in 1994, so this is before the internet and before everything, my life was very, very weird trying to get shoes and trying to fit in as a normal member of society with feet that were way too big for my own good.
We are the very same age. I don't know that I knew that until now. I was also 16 in 1994. Because I bring it like, were you an athlete? I don't even know this about you. Like, what did you play growing up?
So when I was growing up, like any other kid, the first sport that I got into was soccer, and I was actually really good at it. I was a really good midfielder. And then if you look up my hometown, the Wikipedia page, Snohomish, Washington, one of the claims to fame is that there was a semi-pro soccer team that rolled through there by the name of Snohomish United. And Snohomish United started as a Premier League team for 13, 14, 15-year-olds, and it was a traveling crew. And I was actually on the first ever Snohomish United team. So soccer was a huge part of my life. I loved playing it. The reason I was a pretty good midfielder, again, I say I have a Hall of Fame caliber track and cross country coach for a father. I was a distance runner growing up. I ran my first competitive race in about first grade, hung on my dad's coattails, and just running was a huge part of our life. And so I had a ton of endurance. So I made a good midfielder because you never had to pull me from a game. And then again, I'm a little bit big to be a distance runner. So once I started growing up and growing into what would be my adult body, a guy who's 5'11", 6 feet with a size 17 shoe doesn't make a lot of sense to be running competitively in 3-mile races, but it's something I stuck with. But then when I quit basketball in the 8th grade, I dip myself into a pool, and that is what became my calling. So I was an All-American breaststroker at Snohomish High School, and by All-American, it doesn't mean that I was, an absolute world beater. I just swam a good enough time to get that consideration. But I was a breaststroker, and I swam the individual medley, and I really wanted to be a college athlete. I wanted to be a swimmer in college. The only problem was I just wasn't good enough. I had a huge work ethic. I lived at the pool. I was a lifeguard swim teacher. And if I wasn't in the classroom or at home, I was at the pool. And I poured my heart and soul into it, man. I absolutely love that stuff. Athletics was a huge, huge part of my life and a huge part of the reason I got into the business I got into.
So let's transition over there for our audience that isn't familiar, because Adam's not a very consistent guest of ours. So like, I've always found this interesting for guys that kind of do what you and I do, and we have different jobs. We're in the same ecosystem. You have guys like us that played sports growing up. And then you have, and I honestly, I'm not judging one way or the other, but for instance, Ian Eagle, who is a good friend of the show and is a guy I've known my entire life. Like, Ian will tell you, do not throw a football at me. I don't know what to do with it. But he wanted to be a broadcaster when he was like 8, right? So you have a lot of play-by-play guys, and most of the play-by-play guys in our market, breaking news, they're not athletes. Then you have guys that try to play sports like you. I wanted to be the starting point guard for the Knicks. I mean, that was my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I played until I was about 19 when I tried to play against pros. And then I realized, okay, if you want to be around this, you got to find something else to do. So what kind of lit the fire for you to follow this path, and how did you land in our market?
That's a great question, and it's actually something that I really like talking about, because you're right. There are many, many different kinds of professional sportscasters walking around. Some of the smartest ones when it comes to the analytics and the X's and O's and maybe memorizing stats and things like that are guys that weren't athletes themselves. They just fell in love with the sport, and probably there's a certain sense of living vicariously through it. Now, when it comes to me and the one sport that I left out, when talking about what made me tick when I was growing up, all I wanted to do when I was maybe 10 through 16 was play baseball. That was another sport that I played and unfortunately had to give up at one point because I just wasn't good enough. But holy Toledo, Spence, I was the biggest baseball fan, baseball card collector. I grew up about 40 minutes from Seattle, and I would do everything I could to talk my dad into taking me to Mariners games. And it wasn't just to go sit in in our seats and watch the game. It was to go down and try and meet the players and take a handful of baseball cards and trying to get autographs and stuff like that. And then it was a really, really strange twist. I was actually playing on a pony state championship team when I was 14 years old. And I was still clinging to this idea that I could work hard enough and probably grow up to be a professional baseball player one day. And I was just kind of crossing that threshold of being a little more realistic as a human being. I feel like once you get into high school, you kind of have to start facing certain realities. And at one point, and I think my dad and I had just wrapped up, he was running marathons at the time. And so he would run for an hour and a half at our local track, and then I would throw a baseball against the wall while he did that, and then I would probably run for maybe the last 10 minutes with him, something like that. So I'm going on and on like I always do about playing baseball, and maybe I can be a switch hitter and this and that and the other thing. And for whatever reason, my dad had finally had it, and he just said, "Adam, you're my son, and I love you, but you are never going to be a professional baseball player." And it just broke my heart. And trust me, there's a happy ending to this story. And so I was so kind of irritated by it. Like, I walked into the house and had tears in my eyes and didn't pick a fight with my dad or anything like that. I just kind of had to let it sit and digest. And then it was probably a couple days later, I thought to myself, you know what? He's right. And good for him for actually saying something like that. But I didn't want to let the dream die necessarily, like right there. So what I did is I thought to myself, what can I do? What can I possibly do with myself to make sure I stay as close to the arena as possible? How can I figure out a way to go to baseball games for the rest of my life? And I've got a famous uncle by the name of Rick Lukens, who's a sportscaster in Spokane. And by him being on television, he was with the local ABC in Spokane for 30 years. With him being on television, it was kind of a reality that I might be able to do this if I go to school and pay attention and set goals and try and run them down. So I decided that instead of being a baseball player, probably the next best thing would be to be a sportscaster and get to interview people at the Kingdome in Seattle. And lo and behold, I think I'm 22 years old working at Fox Sports Northwest in Seattle, and wasn't 100% sure that I wanted to go the career path. But this is right after I graduated from Wazoo, and it was the first time that, you know, a reporter took me on a story with them, and I got to help out with it. And I called my mom at her office at home from the field at Safeco Field, and I just said, "Hey, Mom, I'm going to be a sportscaster." And she said, "Well, good, honey, go for it." And then the rest is kind of history. Sorry, that was a long story, but that's the truth right there.
Adam, as I say to all my guests, I have 4 hours of space to fill. You can take 45 minutes if you'd like. So you've been here for 15, 16 years? It feels about right?
It'll be 15 years in July.
Okay, so here's the question I wanted to get to as we move into kind of where we find ourselves here locally. I've got a kind of unique paradigm when it comes to this community because I was born here and then moved and grew up elsewhere and then came back and went to college here. So it's kind of home and then kind of isn't home. It's been home essentially for 25 straight years. So, and it's good living. I love it here for sure. It's why I choose to live here. And I am pretty stunned when I take a step back and consider how much we have grown as a sporting market and community. I would say since I was in school at the University of Utah in the late 90s. I mean, it's pretty stunning. Of course, we have additional properties like Real Salt Lake and the hockey club, but we also have evolved into this really undeniable college football market. And we're an NBA market, even though our team right now is unserious about winning. How have you seen our market change and grow in your 15 years here?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And again, it's another thing that keeps me coming back year after year because, not only do I have some stability here, I mean, the fact that there are still multiple radio stations that cover sports in this market is a real indicator of how strong it is here.
Are there multiple stations, Adam? I thought there was only one. I didn't know there was multiple.
Touche, my man, touche, and I apologize.
I'm teasing.
Well, and all four TV stations still do sports, and sports is the first thing to go when times get tough. Again, I always mention I'm from Seattle, and Seattle's a good sports town. But it's fair weather. It's not like it is here with the diehards. I mean, people in Seattle have lots of other things that they'd rather go do than watch sporting events. I grew up with a love for Utah because I was a Sonics fan, and the Sonics and the Jazz had great rivalries over the years. My brother used to impersonate Jeff Hornacek in the backyard whenever he'd shoot up a 3-ball. And so it's funny. It took me moving here because I had this remembrance of Salt Lake City, and of course my career path took me to Southeast Idaho, and then a long ways from home I was in Champaign, Illinois, before I got my job here. And so when I moved here, I was hit with the realization that Utah had become a football town, and that has everything to do with the success of the University of Utah, and a lot to do with what happens just down the road in Provo too. They're absolutely sports crazed here, and then the Jazz are kind of the main attraction, and they make the whole world go around. But I think one of the coolest things is the fact that the hockey club has taken off the way that it has, and that's the biggest change that I've noticed. I think people here are absolutely sports crazed, and the pulse of that has only gone up since I've been here. But with the hockey club, it's like anything else. I like to call it an experiment when it's just taking off and when it's just getting legs. I no longer refer to it as an experiment, and the first full season isn't done yet. This town has absolutely wrapped itself around that club. The atmospheres are so different and so rocking and so much fun. And I think Salt Lake has not changed as a sports market since I've been here, but it just continues and continues to impress me. And then let's be honest too. I mean, we meet a lot of people who are like-minded in the industry from different places, and they all just kind of sit back and marvel at the fact that we've got a really, really good thing going here. I don't think the place has changed, but the fact that it has stayed the same and gotten a little bit better rather than trend in the opposite direction, that's what really, really knocks my socks off, because so many other places, sports aren't gaining in popularity; they're actually waning in popularity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's wild to consider if the Millers are able to successfully bring us Major League Baseball. I mean, for
Yeah.
you as a kid and growing up in Seattle, can you imagine covering a Mariners game 3 miles from where you're working right now, Adam?
I couldn't. And honestly, the stadium plans kind of stick to the Rose Park area, which is where I live now. I mean, honestly, if a Major League Baseball stadium was built within 5 miles of where I have my home right now, I don't know that I'd be able to contain myself. And as a professional in this market and somebody who relies, I mean, we cover sports for a living, and honestly, sometimes it can be a bit much. I mean, we have so much to cover as it is, and then don't forget, for someone like me who goes out and shoots video that turns stories on a daily basis, I get really enveloped in the spring high school sports season. I mean, you're going to see me out at state championship soccer games, softball and baseball games, things like that. So there's already a ton to cover. So it'd be a really, really good problem to have to add one more professional franchise here. And yet again, I mean, if that happens, it's going to work, Spence. Nothing doesn't work in Salt Lake City. These are sports-crazed humans here, and it's a really wonderful place to be.
So let's move over a couple questions about the here and now, and then I'll set you loose because I know you got to get to it. And I reference your ability or just your choice or whatever it is to wax positive regardless of what's going on. And the Jazz, for the first time in 50-plus years of basketball, have just lost their 60th game, and they've just lost their 61st, and they're probably going to lose the rest of the way. So this is the deal for me, Adam. I mean, I'm a child of this organization. Nobody wants me to see them, but nobody wants to see them win a championship more than I do. And they're doing the right thing. It just sucks. Like with the, right? Like with the ecosystem of the NBA and the way that the league is structured, and, essentially how you kind of have to go about this because of the way that the NBA is, put together to bring talent to certain markets based off of certain mechanisms, namely the NBA draft. I get the approach. I think they should have done this 2 years ago when Victor Wembanyama was available, but it is what it is. What has been the biggest challenge in covering a team that's unserious about winning, and what are some of the positive things that you've noticed this year?
And just to kind of elaborate a little bit more for everybody at home how significant this season has been, I think the inaugural season of Jazz basketball that was in New Orleans in what was it, 73, 74? I'm close there, right?
Yeah, yep.
23 wins total in the first season ever, and I believe that's the all-time fewest wins for a Jazz team in a single season. They are going to eclipse that if everything goes well. And as weird as that is to sound, they're going to. They're going to set a franchise record for the fewest wins in a single season, and it's by design. So here, it's kind of been an evolution thing for me. I wasn't ready to, and again, I have, because we own KJazz. KUTV owns KJazz,
right.
So we are the Jazz station. I have an obligation to cover this team, and it's a wonderful obligation to have. I've been doing live shots at Jazz games this year, probably more so than any time before, and it's because we want to be there and we want to represent our product as best we can. And it took me a while to kind of evolve out of the mode of, okay, well, let's talk about the positives. They almost got the win tonight, and then finally to saying, okay, the Jazz lost tonight, and that's a beautiful thing. It's just absolutely weird, but once it kind of became, Danny Ainge hasn't had a press conference and given us the exact blueprints of his plan whatsoever. But it's implied that this is what they want to do, if it makes sense what I'm saying here right now. So just looking at the development of the youngsters has been something that I've been trying to do the best I can. We had you on Talking Jazz on Tuesday night. You and I were just going on and on about how much we like watching Isaiah Collier play. So it has been kind of a work in progress. And the hardest thing for me to do was kind of allow myself to accept the fact that losing is by design when it comes to this team. And once I let that kind of go, it just became a little bit easier to focus on the young talent. And, the other thing, too, is the locker room. These guys kind of know who they are. And so I kept waiting for it to get to a point where it would be really difficult to go in there and talk to those players. But they've been terrific this season. They've made it easy to kind of look at the positive side of things and to know that this is what the team needs to do to grow it in the right direction. those kids in that locker room have made it real easy to do my job, and I guess I'm really appreciative of that. And so has Will Hardy too. Like he's a great soundbite. He's very thoughtful, and he's also really easy to talk to. So once you I guess learn to accept the fact that losing is winning this season in a very unique way, it kind of became easier and easier as it went along. Does that make any sense?
It does, and it takes some time to understand. Like if you're working in an ecosystem that incentivizes losing, you're going to lean into it because the incentive structure says this is the right thing to do. So it's kind of like a don't hate the player, hate the game thing. Like I just don't like that the NBA incentivizes what the Jazz are doing, but the NBA does, so the Jazz have to do it. But before I set you loose, Adam, we are the home of the Utes, and we had a rough football season and another rough basketball season, but I think there's a lot of optimism for next year on both sides. We'll finish with the football program, but before we do that, Alex Jensen has been hired as the 17th coach in men's basketball history. Keanu Dawes withdrew from the transfer portal. He's coming back, and Terrence Brown has been added as a transfer from Fairleigh Dickinson University. And when you look at the composite rankings, he is one of the top guards on the transfer market. So we have two pieces in place. But you know, AJ, what would you say to Ute fans about what they should expect now that he's in charge?
I love Alex. I think he's a great guy. You know, Spence, one of my favorite things about him, we work in a really hectic profession, you know, especially, you know, again, covering post-game for a living. I mean, at least once or twice a week, I go to a sporting event. Win or lose, I go do post-game, scrap it all together, and then, you know, just get to a live shot, you know, running to get there and make it on time. It's a hectic environment. Alex has this laid-back, cool, calm demeanor about him everywhere he goes. And I got to know Alex when he was, of course, working for Quinn Snyder and the Utah Jazz, and he was never not sitting down courtside with Rudy Gobert with an iPad just looking through video. And he's just calm and patient and a welcoming person. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see him developing college-level talent, because I think he's cut out for it. I think there's like a nurturing side to Alex. I think there's a thoughtfulness that is perfect for coaching kids who are coming right out of high school and growing them into a program. I just think he's going to create a family environment. And I'm not saying that wasn't present with Craig Smith. I was a huge Craig Smith fan, and it broke my heart when he got let go. But Alex is going to bring the family aspect of Utah basketball back to Utah. I think that's a big part of the reason they want him for this job. And then, you kind of prefaced this part of, our segment today talking about the transfer portal and how competitive it is there. I think the biggest thing that a coach can bring to the table for a program that wants to be competitive these days is to find a way to keep kids at your school. Don't have kids 3/4 of the way through the season when they're not perfect and when nothing's going absolutely perfect. Get them from putting their heads in the gutter and thinking about leaving. Find a way to make a program that kids don't want to leave, and that's why I'm so excited for Alex to come here. I think he's going to be great at that.
All right, last thing, Utah football last year was installed as the favorite to win the Big 12 by our friends in Las Vegas. The media picked Utah to win the Big 12, local, national, And I wonder, Adam, this year, if you pull up the way too early Big 12 lists, as far as what people think is going to happen next year, Utah, for the most part, is like 5, 6, or 7. They're mid-table, okay? So you remove the pressure of everybody saying you're going to win the Big 12. The CFP's expanded to 12, so you're going to that too. What gives you the most hope that year 2 in the Big 12 can be a lot better for Utah football than year 1 was?
Okay, I hope he's not listening right now, because I don't mean it the way it sounds, but the fact that Utah has undeniably moved on from Cam Rising, I think, is the first step in the right direction. Cam, his last 2 seasons was never a sure thing, and there were lots of ups and downs that were just there and always at the ready as long as he was around. What's Cam going to do? How's Cam going to be? It looked pretty good through a couple of games this last season, and then I don't know what he was trying to pull in the game against Baylor. I've got a ton of respect for this kid. I think he's one of the best not only quarterbacks, but one of the best leaders that Utah football has had since I've been here. And he's got a tremendous upside, and he's going to have a bright future. But the fact that they're moving on from that era and moving into something else, I think, is the first step in the right direction. And then, yeah, I think there's a little juice up there too with Jason Beck. I hadn't had a chance to meet him until I was up at practice on a Friday a couple weeks ago, and we got to talk to a lot of the coordinators. And he just looks bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to make mistakes and fix those mistakes and get his hands dirty. And the other thing too is he's playing for, you like to call me the GOAT. The GOAT is Kyle Whittingham. I mean, that's the biggest arrow in the quiver that the University of Utah has, is they've got one of the deans of college football running their program, and guys just seem to love to play for him. And I think as long as Kyle Whittingham is there, I think Utah is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Adam, you're the man. Appreciate the time. It was fun being on television with you this week. Have a great weekend, buddy. We'll chat soon, okay?
Thanks for everything, Spence. Appreciate you.
All right, Adam Mikulich, KUTV. He's on Twitter, which is just his name, at Adam Mikulich is where you find him. Brought to you today by IFA Country Stores. Weather is about to turn, and it'll probably be more or less warm moving forward, so it's time to start thinking about your lawn. IFA Country Stores has everything you need to care for your lawn, no matter its size or shape. Their 4+ lawn care program can promote a healthy green lawn for you this summer. They're the same products used at many local sports fields, golf courses, and city parks. You can consult IFA's team of experts for your yard this season. Visit them online at ifa.coop or stop by one of the 18 Utah stores today. IFA Country Stores, helping to grow the things you love. All right, 1 hour down, 3 hours to go. Zach Harper, Paul Pugmire, that's your 3 o'clock hour on this Friday drive. Good to have you with us. Happy Friday to you. Keep it right here on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network. There's one more tune-up prior to Augusta next week. That's the Valero Texas Open. Paul Pugmire will join us. I believe Paul's going to be in Augusta for the Masters next week. Thor Nystrom for Little NFL Draft. Our celebrity reporter, Dave McMiniman, stops by. But, Porter, you should know that the moon today is waxing crescent.
Oh, is it?
Are you optimizing? Do you have an abundance mindset?
I always have that.
Are you optimizing?
But I'm not necessarily in tune with the moon at the moment. I have to look into that.
Well, right now is a good time to optimize and have an abundance mindset as the moon, Zach Harper, currently, as of today, is waxing crescent. Are you prepared for tonight?
You don't have to tell me. I looked at the moon last night. I saw that it was about to wax crescent, so I knew.
The natural follow-up is, are you optimizing? Do you have an abundance mindset?
I always have an abundance mindset. I wake up with an abundance mindset. I make sure that I speak it into existence. I go to bed with an abundance mindset. I manifest. I vision board it. I do it all.
But are you practicing feeling the feeling even though the thing hasn't happened yet? Because, Zach, what is meant for you will never be kept from you.
Well, not only that, but I journal it.
Oh, perfect. Then you know what?
That's how you put it into practice.
I've got nothing to add. You are on your way, young man. I'm proud of you.
Thank you very much. I've got a lot of practice with this.
One more follow-up. Are you dating with intention right now?
You have to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's new.
Yeah.
That's new. I didn't know that was a thing. How long has this been going on? You need to help me out. I'm new on the scene.
Oh, dating with intention. That's about, I would say, like dating with intention and being in a provider/protector role has been about a 6 to 7 month thing.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, keep your phone on you because as I'm going through this process, I have a lot of questions. Okay.
Oh man. Yeah, I got you with any of that stuff.
Okay. All right. I need some guidance. This is wild. All right. Isaiah Collier's optimizing. What? Transition? No big deal. All right. So the Jazz have sent out some media packets to folks that are voters. Are you a voter? You're a voter, aren't you?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. So my guess is you receive one of these. And, Zach, it's the only postseason award the Jazz have any chance outside of maybe the number one overall pick, but we'll get there in a moment. And initially, you hear hey, is Isaiah Collier broke John Stockton's assist record? Well, okay, John played 18 minutes a night his rookie year. He played behind Ricky Green. He had 5 starts, so I think it's 470 assists or whatever. But ultimately, for a season that is void in bright spots for the team, when you look at the rookie class this year, Isaiah might have a case to be made for first team, maybe second team, definitely all rookie. Do you think he has a chance?
I don't think he has any kind of case for first team. That seems not possible to me because I think right off the rip, you've got Castle, Wells, Risa Shea, Edie, Sarr, and then Khalil Ware's in there too. I think those 6 have a better case than he does. But then once you get past those, second team is definitely in the mix. I don't know that there is a strong case outside of those 6 that would bump him definitely out of all rookie second team. And he's closed really well. And even though the team has been a mess, he had a really good game the other night. He's playing better. The shot making is whatever. He's making decent decisions out there. The assists have been there. The scoring is kind of in and out. But I think you're seeing. It's tough to tell, but I feel like you're seeing some progress there, right? He's definitely better than he was 2 months ago.
Yeah, he's 32% from 3 since the All-Star break. And look, that's not awesome, but it's better than 22, 21, which is where he was at to start the year,
Right, yeah. I don't know that the shot looks good, but it doesn't look atrocious. I think his shot decisions are better. And again, I feel like we're saying the same things that we did. Well, maybe not the same things we did with Keontae George, but similar things. With that, it was the shot looks good. He's taking, he creates good shots. Why aren't they going in? And that's what we saw at Baylor. With Collier, it's a bit of a different conversation in that he was a top prospect coming out of high school. I think the whole USC program and experience set him back. And now he's trying, he and the Jazz are trying to correct whatever that year, kind of messed up for him and getting him in real basketball development, in a real program, in a real abundance mindset when it comes to
There
the
you go.
NBA, and trying to correct, whatever stunt that year had to his growth. And I do think it took him a little while to get into good habits. I think he's exhibiting good habits and good decision making. Whether the shots are there or not, you're at least seeing a much different player from just a professionalism standpoint on the court than what we saw in the first half of the season. And that, I mean, if you're going to take anything away from this mess of a season for the Jazz, that's a positive.
So you bring up Keontae George, who's clearly not in the vortex. So let's move. I'm sorry. That's just, I can't help it.
No, this is great. I would do this every radio hit we do for the rest of the year if we can.
I mean, Keontae clearly is not manifesting. Like, everything is always working out for me. All you have to do is repeat it in the mirror. But look, we haven't talked about Keontae in a while. And anecdotally, somebody down with the team about three weeks ago said to me, like, you are higher on Keontae than they are behind the scenes. And I'm not that high on Keontae. He just listens to the show. I've just tried to take this positive spin where ever since he was brought off the bench, maybe he settled into the role that I think he always was going to settle into no matter what, even when he was starting, even when he was the starting lead guard. Way too many bad decisions. He might be among the worst defensive players in all of pro basketball. I'm getting the sense down there, Zach, that they don't really view him as part of their future, which is wild to think about because last year he was like the only young player that played well. So let's get an up-to-date Zach Harper take on the player that clearly is not in the vortex right now, Keontae George.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like when people talk like, oh, they have like a young child and then a new baby comes into the mix and now that baby gets all the attention, right? Like Isaiah Collier is the new baby and Keontae George has kind of been pushed aside. I feel like, look, I'm not watching every Jazz game front to back, but I feel like when I check in, like some of the games he has off the bench, I'm like, he was pretty good. Now, the bar is very low, right? Like the bar for him is very low. And so I don't know if I'm judging that. Like, I got to be honest, like, I don't know if I'm judging that based on like what I expect out of a good NBA player or what I expect out of him in the Jazz. And so it's probably the latter. I think there is a good backup guard within his future. I do think the talent's there. The decision making has not been there in his time in the league so far, and like he has been in the league a while to still be making some of these mistakes. But also, part of it. This is going to be a weird comparison, but I've been I've got a bunch of friends who are Blazers fans, and they've been complaining for 3 years now about Chauncey Billups as a coach. And I keep saying, look, I have no idea if Chauncey Billups is a good coach. I do know he's never been given a good team because even when he took over, like those teams were injured right away. And so he was tanking and not given like an actual Damian Lillard season and not, and then finally, the trade away and everything. And he's been giving teams that are, I guess, in tear down years and then in rebuilding years. And so I have no idea if he can coach. Like, I have no idea. We saw a good stretch with the Blazers this year in the second half, and it started looking promising, but I don't know if he's a good coach. With Keontae George, the Jazz have been such a mess in these tear down and rebuilding years. Maybe if you put him around actual good players, it would elevate his game. He wouldn't have to make so many decisions. It would, kind of everything would rise up and kind of steady things for him. So maybe that is an environment he needs to be in, but man, like it's not as promising as you want it to be. And when you get into the conversation of like, okay, he could be a backup guard, there's a lot of backup guard options in the NBA.
Yeah, and there were moments that he showed after he kind of was the only young player to get starts and minutes last year. Like, okay, maybe we got something here. But
yeah,
to your point about Isaiah, and you can talk about this with most of their young players, Zach, which is why whenever I'm asked, I'm always asked the same question. If I go on other shows or do podcasts or even I'm talking to Jazz fans, they always say, who will be here when they're good again? And I honestly, at this point, and I don't know when that's going to be. And Markkanen is in his late 20s. Walker's about to be in his mid 20s. Part of me wants to answer the question, like, there's a chance that none of these players are here when the Jazz are actually good again, because I have so many question marks about so many of them outside of Markkanen and Kessler. But because they're not close to being good again, I can't even say that Lowry and Walker will be here when the Jazz are actually good, because I don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah, like I guess I don't look at Lowry, like if they're calling this now like the actual rebuild, then I assume Lowry is, this summer available, right? Like the whole reason with the timing of the extension and everything was so that he wouldn't be traded this year. But I would assume teams are going to be interested in him this summer, and you've got to do your due diligence to see what you can get for him, and if that helps, bring in assets or young players or whatever Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck are looking for. And so I wouldn't expect him to be here long term. If that's the case, then to me, as nice as Collier has looked recently, like to me, Walker Kessler is the only guy who has a definite skill set for the NBA right now. And so he's the only one that I would say, like, yeah, he'll probably be here long term, but I'm with you. Like, I don't know who that is. Like, maybe if this kid gets healthy and can show what he can do defensively on the court, maybe that's Taylor. I don't know. Like, I don't know that they have those guys, which is kind of tough when you've been drafting a bunch of dudes, in the first round over the last couple of years.
What is your favorite / most accurate player comp for Cooper Flagg? I've, as he has kind of played his way, because a lot of people probably heard the name and then hadn't watched him play much. Then the tournament rolls around and everybody watches the tournament. So now you cannot log on to the intrawebs without getting another piece and a think piece about who Cooper Flagg could be in the NBA. And sometimes the comp game can be a little bit frustrating because it puts unrealistic expectations in the minds of fans. But this is a market that badly is hoping this pain tolerance pays off, and Cooper Flagg is a Jazz man. Of all the comps you've heard, Zach, what lands the best for you?
Well, I saw someone pass one along to me the other day that they saw, which I thought was insane, which was Lamar Odom, which Lamar Odom could handle the ball. Cooper Flagg dribbles like it's a football. Like, I don't see that at all. But he can pass. Like, he's a good passer, not like Lamar Odom was, but he can pass. To me, I'm sticking with Sean Marion. To me, he can shoot better than Sean Marion. He can pass a little bit better, but in terms of athlete, defensive impact, getting up and down the floor, the way he scores on the move, it reminds me a lot of Sean Marion, like with the Suns.
Okay. All right. I've heard the Kawhi stuff. I feel like that's probably best case. So let me follow up here just because it's of interest in the market. Sean Marion was really, really good at his peak. Okay. But he wasn't like generationally special cornerstone building block. So do you believe that if Cooper stays healthy, he just turned 18 3 months ago, if he stays healthy and is fully developed, do you believe he can maybe have a better career than Sean Marion and actually be a building block for a team?
It's all going to depend on whether or not he becomes someone who can create off the dribble. Like, he just can't right now. I don't understand what people are seeing when he tries to create. Like, yeah, it can work at the college level, because no one, like, you watch him in the previous game that they played, like, and pay attention this weekend whether they beat Houston or not. And Houston's a great defensive test for him with just the bodies they can throw at him, the defense they can throw at him. It'll be a great test for how he creates shots, because he's not strong at handling the ball. So all this stuff that he tries to do to create, none of that's going to work at the NBA level. It's all going to be set up off of his athleticism and him on the move, which is fine. He's 18 years old. Like, he's super young. He reclassified, so he's younger than a prospect would normally be. All of this is fine, and he's got plenty of time to develop. But in terms of people thinking of him as like this guy who's going to be an offensive weapon, he can't dribble. Like, he can't create a shot against NBA level defenders consistently within the flow of a game. And if you can't do that, I just don't know how I'm supposed to believe that you are a franchise level offensive player. It doesn't mean he can't get there. I just haven't seen it yet. There are times he tries to go left, or he tries to go against like even decent, pressure, and he's kind of loose with the ball, and he doesn't quite get there, and so then he can't utilize his athleticism or his quickness. When he is able to get into space and use that, these college players can't keep up with him. That's when he's dominant. But when he gets a little bit of physicality and a little bit of pressure, and he's not able to use that, then you see that loose handle, that inability to create. That's when it's a struggle for him, and that's what it's going to be at the NBA level until he can hone that craft. That might take a year, 2 years, 5 years. Hopefully it's on the shorter side of that, and he is able to become that player right away because he does have so many other special skills. He'll be a good catch and shoot guy. He'll be a good guy who can make decisions off the short roll and moving the ball with the extra pass. He's going to be an excellent elite defender. All those things are great, but in terms of scoring, he's going to be limited until he can handle the ball.
Haberstroh this week on the show dropped Kevin Garnett. What do you think of that?
That's insane. It was insane when they did it with Anthony Davis.
All right.
And is he better than Anthony Davis as a prospect? No.
No, there are very few prospects that were better than AD coming out of college. A lot of people don't remember that. All right, Let's move off the Jazz for a moment. And, it's just time to say that it is OKC and everybody else, and it has been for quite some time. Golden State, 20-4 with Jimmy Butler?
Yeah.
They beat LA last night. And everybody played, which is always nice because it gives you an idea of exactly what sort of hand we've been dealt. And every time I lock in on a Warriors game and Draymond looks like Draymond, blowing up sets like he was, and of course Steph is still Steph, and Jimmy's always a wild card, but it's probably time to say that Golden State needs to be taken a little more seriously than they have been prior to where we're at currently. Is that fair?
I think so. I mean, I think they're right on the cusp. Last night it looked better, but there's still plenty of games where they don't generate a lot of easy offense. It's still like a lot of tough buckets to create. Now, sometimes Steph can make that easy. Sometimes Jimmy can make that easy. And there are times where they run a couple of plays where, they'll run a dribble handoff, or they'll run a play where Draymond's got the ball, kind of on the elbow extended, and Jimmy's running a pick play with Steph, and Jimmy slips the screen because all that attention's going to Steph, and he's got a wide open layup, wide open dunk, and it's just like that's unguardable. I don't know where you put your attention on that, and so they can get some easy buckets, but for the most part, I still think some of their offense is a slog. Now that can be held by Kuminga stepping up and getting into a flow, or last night Podziemski shot out of his mind. He's not a shooter like that, so that was a big bonus for them. If Buddy Hield starts shooting like he's supposed to be shooting, that helps a lot. But their offense still isn't as smooth as it needs to be, or it has been in their previous championship years. But, man, their defense is elite. Their defense is so good with Jimmy in the mix, and I think they're right on the cusp of being there. I mean, if you, other than OKC, you want me to, put them up against, a Denver or the Lakers or anybody, I'll put them ahead of everybody else in the West. It's just we got to see what OKC looks like in the playoffs,
For sure. Let me ask you about two teams, because every week we do this thing where, we all agree that OKC is historic. Okay, so Lakers get Luka. Do we like them? Of course, Jokic is Jokic. Denver's Denver. But are you buying anything about the recent run from either the Clippers or Kawhi's back? And I know you always say the Clips are going to clip. Are you buying anything about the recent run of play of either Clippers or the Timberwolves?
I mean, the Clippers look great, right? But, hey, I mean, we can't do this every year.
I know.
And nobody wants to believe in Kawhi being back more than me. I mean, he is my favorite. I love Kawhi, and I want him to be healthy, and I want to see another playoff run because he's just – I mean, he is a great show when he's healthy, but – I just can't believe in it. And even if he is healthy, as good as they've been, I don't know that I want to believe in this version of James Harden stepping up and being the number 2 guy. I think there's a little bit missing there. Maybe that's Norm Powell. Maybe that's Zubac, who's been incredible. But there's something missing there. But the Clippers are dangerous. I wouldn't want to play them in the first round. The Timberwolves, I don't know. It's still a lot of Julius Randle. They look great. It's a lot of Julius Randle at times, and Ant can go supernova, and he can make up for a lot of that. We saw that. I mean, he was having a terrible game against Denver that night, and then he just went crazy in the fourth quarter and picked them up. And he can do that. Like, he's, with the way he's fixed his shot, he is still great and capable of taking over. But he still makes some pretty rough decisions at times. And it kind of comes down to, like, is McDaniels going to make shots? Is Nickeil Alexander-Walker going to make shots? Even though they shoot well, I never fully trust that that shot looks good to me. And I don't trust Julius Randle, but they do seem to have some advantages over really good teams. I mean, they own Denver over the last 6 years. They've beaten them 6 straight games dating back to the playoffs with game 6 and 7. And that's another team with the way Ant goes and the way their size is. I wouldn't trust them, but I also wouldn't want to play them.
Are you hesitant to anoint the Clippers because of Kawhi's seeming inability to balance the masculine and the feminine energy?
No, it's mostly that James Harden sucks in the playoffs.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Just kicking the tires. I'm an idea guy. All right, Zach, before I say you lose, I mean, watching Jokic, a 60-point triple-double is so dumb. And so, like, MVP, where you at? Where you at right now?
It's 2 historic seasons.
Yep, it is.
And I hate that everyone's dismissing the historic season that Shea's having. Everyone wants to talk like, well, yeah, but Jokic is doing that. I'm like, yeah, but no one's done what Shea's done, right? Like, it's different values of what you want to talk about, and what Jokic is doing is historic, but so is Shea. And so I don't want to ignore that. To me, it's even enough that at least right now, and I got another week to flip-flop on this, but at least right now, I think the team dominance of OKC, like, I think the winning is the tiebreaker for me. I'm going to keep reevaluating and see, but I think the winning has to matter. I just do. And when you look at the impact that Jokic has on and off the floor with Denver, it is obviously severe. Go look at the numbers of when Shea is on versus when Shea is off. It is kind of it's closer to a coin flip than you would think when he's off the floor, and it is historically dominant when he's on the floor.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. If I had a vote, I'd give it to Shea, but I'm not mad at anybody that gives it to Jokic because he's awesome.
I don't fault you for voting for Jokic. I think I'm leaning Shea right now.
No, I'm with you. All right, I'm going to put this out into the universe that this weekend, Zach, you will find your vibrational match. Best of luck with that, and good chatting.
Also to you, vibrational match, abundance, all that stuff.
We're the worst. Thanks, man. Have a good weekend.
All right, buddy.
All right, Zach Harper from The Athletic, brought to you today by our friends at the Salt Lake Bees. Salt Lake Bees have a new hive. Join us for opening week. It's coming up April 8th through the 13th as we kick off our inaugural season at the ballpark at America First Square in South Jordan. Every game will feature exciting giveaways, so don't miss out. Experience the thrill of America's favorite pastime and join us this season for professional baseball, family-friendly entertainment, and unforgettable memories. Giveaways include pennants, T-shirts, beanies, and more on every night of the first homestand. Single-game tickets are on sale now. Visit slbees.com for more information. This season, the Bees are going to feature fireworks and drone nights throughout the year. Brunch every Sunday home game. They're doing Bark in the Park for 9 games, which means you can bring your dog to the game. They're going to do a Superman night, cowboy-themed weekend as well. The ballpark at America First Square is designed for year-long use. Coming soon, a brand-new Bees team store will be open all year. The site's going to have a megaplex theater that includes movies, bowling, arcade, and dining, restaurants, and a concert stage. Salt Lake Bees are dedicated to providing a premium experience with wallet-friendly ticket pricing. The privately financed stadium has a capacity of 8,000 fans and offers open lawn, premium club, and field-level seating options. There's going to be a ticket and a seat for every type of fan. Fan amenities include locally inspired concessions, a grab-and-go market using smart technology, alcohol-free family zones, spectacular views of the Wasatch Mountains, improved transportation and access to the ballpark, more parking, lower costs for parking, a new track stop at center field for America First Square, increased walkability, curated game day experience for fans at America First Square, comfortable seats, an expansive video board, premium seating options, and fans seated behind home plate in the new suites are going to be closer to the batter than the pitcher. Visit slbees.com to get your tickets and come see the Bees. All right, one final tune-up before Augusta. It is the Valero Texas Open. The PGA Tour said no to the latest offer from Live Golf, and then Augusta and the Masters is next week. Golf storylines on the way with Paul Pugmire on a Friday drive, so keep it right here on ESPN 700. John Moran has been fined $75,000 for another gun gesture made towards the bench last night. As we talked about, it's like the one thing, if you're John Moran, to just not do. Go double bird on the other bench. I mean, take your clothes off. Don't do that. But the one thing he can't do, he continues to do, so he's been fined. There's one more tune-up before Augusta. It is the Valero Texas Open. So let's talk some golf now. Paul Pugmire, Friday afternoon. Paul, happy Friday, sir. How are you?
Good. How about you, Spence?
I'm well. Just real quick, do you want to hang out with me next weekend? Let's go hang out. Do you have any plans next weekend, or what are you doing?
I might be near a TV checking out the Masters.
A little birdie tells me you might be on site. Is this true?
Well, I'll be on site this weekend for the drive, chip, and putt. I'm on my way between Atlanta and Augusta as we speak, and drive, chip, and putt has a big Utah showing this weekend. Plus, there is an amazing vortex of history, of Utah history, going on at Augusta this Sunday, and I'm here for that. But then I've got to get back to real life for Masters Week itself. So I'm just here for this weekend.
Oh, okay. Well, tell us about the did you call it the drive, chip, and putt? Is that what you're going to see?
Yes, exactly. Drive, chip, and putt is a junior program that Augusta National and the Masters does in collaboration with the PGA of America, PGA Tour, and the USGA. It is analogous to the old punt, pass, and kick, if you remember that. It's a skills test for kids where they get points for how far they hit a drive on a grid, how close they chip it, and then how close they putt it. In the there's local qualifiers, 40 or 50 of them held around the country. They go to 11 regional qualifiers, and then from those 11 regions, there's a representative in each of 8 groups for boys and girls to come to Augusta National Sunday prior to the Masters and have a national playoff, the national finals. There are 3 kids from Utah who made the national finals this weekend. Logan Wild, Blake Brown, and then really interesting, Nicholas Miller made the finals from Utah. And Nicholas Miller is a big story. He is the grandson of Johnny Miller.
Oh, okay.
He was named by his father Todd for Jack Nicklaus, and little Nicholas, he's 12 years old. He qualified for the drive, chip, and putt finals on the 50th anniversary of the 1975 Masters, the greatest Masters ever played, where Jack Nicklaus beat Johnny Miller by 1 shot to win his 5th Masters. And on the 50th anniversary of that epic tournament, Johnny Miller's grandson, who bears Jack's name, will play in the drive, chip, and putt at Augusta National. It's incredible.
Johnny Miller's grandson is also named after Jack Nicklaus. I want to give this kid a hug. And like, if he doesn't end up being an awesome golfer, Paul, I mean, that's a little bit of pressure on this young fella, yeah?
He is an awesome golfer. He's got great DNA. He's got great. He's got great naming in him. I mean, his name is Nicholas Miller, and he's living up to it. He's a Utah Golf Association Age Group Player of the Year, and he is a terrific kid. He is a terrific player, and this is a name I think we're going to hear more of, and it's just going to get cooler as it goes along.
Jeez, Johnny Miller's grandson named after Jack Nicklaus. Goodness gracious!
I know. You just want to stand next to him and let some of it bleed off on you.
I want to give him a hug and say you're going to be okay no matter what. That's a lot of pressure. All right, we'll look at the Masters in a moment, but of course, as I referenced, one more tune-up, which is the Valero Texas Open down at TPC San Antonio, their Oaks course, and I always like to have you let us know the details about what we're watching. So let's start with the track. Tell us about TPC San Antonio.
It's one of the several TPC tracks that are owned by the PGA Tour. This one was developed by the PGA Tour as a tournament host facility. It shares the characteristics that many, not all, but certainly most, I'll say, of the TPC courses have. It's got a stadium component to it. It's easy for the fans to get around and to watch. There are some target elements to it, which is another characteristic of the TPC courses. They tend to be gettable when the conditions are right, and the conditions actually are a little tough this week down in San Antonio. And you've got good, strong players at the top of the leaderboard. You've got a major winner in Brian Harmon, but the course isn't proving very gettable as you go deeper into the field. This tournament's place on the calendar means that a lot of people on the tour are already paying attention to Augusta, and they could skip over it. So this tournament does a really interesting thing. They put together a package that is very attractive to the families of the players. So a lot of the tour players will go to this tournament, play in this tournament, because it's so family friendly and there's so much going on that's good for the kids while dad's out knocking it around.
So as of now, Brian Harmon is your leader by 2 over Keith Mitchell, Matt Wallace, Sam Ryder, 4 strokes back. Let's see, Patrick Cantlay at 600 par. Not a ton. Keegan's there. Where is Tony? Oh, Tony's at 4 under. He had a really good round yesterday. He's kind of struggling today. So I ask you the same thing every time we talk about one of these tournaments of the golfers that are in contention and what you know about them in the course. Who do you think has the best chance? Give us a few names you think will be in the mix on Sunday, and then what do you make of the way Tony's handled himself so far?
Well, the conversation this week has to stay with Brian Harmon. He's finished his round, and the wind tends to pick up in the afternoon in San Antonio, and so he's already got a number on the board, and people are going to have to go out and chase him down with later tee times. That's a harder lift. So the conversation starts with Brian Harmon, a proven winner, very gutsy player who plays really smart. And so the target aspects of TPC San Antonio are going to play to his advantage. I do like the name Keith Mitchell. He's been trending. He's been playing well lately. And recent form is always one of the strongest indicators. And so Mitchell is one that you have to pay attention to as well. Then, I'm always cheering for Tony. Didn't have his best today, but he's still within striking distance and very definitely making the weekend. And he could easily put together a couple of good days and be right in it.
Max Homa is about to miss another cut, Paul. And we got news earlier today. I think it's Joe Greiner. Max is split with his caddy, Joe Greiner. And I guess they're buddies from childhood. But we keep talking about this. Max is one of my favorite players to watch when he's right. And he has just been it's a shocking season for one of the best young players that we have in our country. So what based off of your knowledge of how these things work, what's the hope once you get rid of a caddy you've had so much success with, and have you seen caddy changes make stark differences for players as talented as Max?
Well, you got to fire Billy Martin once or twice, right?
For sure, or 7 times.
Yeah, really, whatever it was. Now this is always a part of the game. Players look for a change when things aren't going well, and holy cow, Max is scraping. I watched him a little bit on the broadcast yesterday, and he didn't look right in any way. He didn't look like he was walking right. He didn't look comfortable on the green. He just didn't look like he was right, and so it doesn't surprise me that he's going to try to shake things up somehow, even if it means firing your high school buddy. I don't know one word about any of the dynamics there. I just know in general, players will shake things up when they need to, and that's very frequently what will happen. But boy, Max doesn't look good right now.
No, he's going to miss another cut. Do you know Martin Hall, the guy on the Golf Channel?
Uh-huh.
Have you ever met him?
I have not. No, I'd love to, though.
I don't know what it is. I think he's just like a funny dude. So at night, Paul, as I've told you before, I'm not an awesome sleeper. I'm working on it. But if I can't fall asleep, I'll fire up a little Martin Hall, little golf pass on the Golf Channel, and I'll watch, one of his comprehensive lessons. But the reason I bring it up is last night, I don't know that I had watched the second part of the Tiger Woods documentary that's based off the Tiger Woods book. And so I learned last night, and if I knew this, I'd forgotten, the split that happened, because I asked you about Max's caddy, between Tiger and Stevie after Tiger was hurt, and he was not going to play in the U.S. Open. So as Stevie tells the story, and I haven't heard Tiger's side of this, he asked Tiger for permission to caddy for Adam Scott, his fellow Aussie. And then after he had committed to Adam Scott, Tiger decided to play in the U.S. Open, and then he fired Stevie. Is that how that went down? What's your memory of that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I remember it, and that's one of the versions. That's one of the stories you hear. I have no reason to question it, but we have to acknowledge that there aren't all versions out there in the public. One thing that I've seen when these things go on is that there's very frequently a little more to the story than we have the ability to know. And in a situation like Stevie had with Tiger, they were a team for some of the greatest golf ever to be played, ever. And that led to a prominence and a celebrity for Steve that caddies simply never had. There had been notable caddies before, certainly some of the caddies at Augusta, certainly Angelo and I'm blanking on his last name with Nicholas, Andy Martinez with Miller, Bruce Edwards with Watson. There had been prominent caddies, but Stevie achieved something that never had been done before. And I always looked at that and thought that Tiger was not in love with the fact that his caddy was getting attention too. I don't know that. I could be very wrong, but that's what it looked like to me. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I think Tiger went ahead and made a move.
All right, Paul, we'll end with some Augusta thoughts, but before we do that, I know this isn't your favorite topic, but the fact of the matter is, like, the Live Golf ratings continue to be horrific. It's like 40,000 people, which puts it among the lowest rated shows in all of cable television. And the story today is that the PGA Tour has rejected that the Public Investment Fund, their recent offer to invest $1.5 billion into whatever that partnership is. And I just want your thoughts on this continued drama. And then ultimately, when the dust settles, what is your hope about how this partnership looks?
Oh, mercy. I'm not even sure what to hope for now, other than to just say that I want so much to see the greatest players play against each other in a true tournament of 72 holes with a cut. When John Rahm was playing last year in the Live Finals, and Rahm was playing well, he had like 30,000, 35,000 eyeballs around the world on him. And this is one of the greatest players of our time. And just to be that invisible is so sad and just so disappointing, that because more people, like orders of magnitude more people, need to see this great player play, and we need to see him play against other great players. And if there's one thing that Live has proven itself to be over its 4 years, it's that it's nearly invisible. Players go there and just aren't heard from very much again. One possible exception would be DeChambeau because of his social media work, particularly on YouTube, but that's not on Live. That's something DeChambeau has done himself. I have thought from the beginning that this would follow the series of events that have held true with every other sport that's been in this situation or something like it. And ultimately that is a merger. NBA, ABA, NFL, ABL, back in the days of the early major leagues, always it ends up being a merger. I hope that there's something that can come of that. I hope that it brings the greatest players back together to play against each other in a 72-hole tournament with a cut.
The high fructose adventures of an annoying orange had more viewers than Live Golf. It's a cartoon about an orange that teaches kids lessons. I'm looking this up in real time. So do you think, one more thing here, do you think this is going to be a scenario where Live carries on and the PGA Tour carries on and players have the ability to play whatever they would like to play in, kind of like the DP World Tour or whatever in the PGA Tour? Do you anticipate something like that?
The players themselves want to play against the best. These top players I'm talking about, certainly Rahm, Koepka, DeChambeau, Cam Smith, DJ, he's over the crest of the hill in his career, but he still packs a lot of firepower. They want to play against the best, and the best want to play against them. I think that pressure from the very best players in the world will ultimately bring them together. What it looks like is very hard to discern because of the great black hole, unknowable variable of what is the business model from PIF, this bottomless pit of money. What do they want to get out of it? Nobody knows. And so that means that you can't apply regular modes of analysis and regular business sense to what's going on. But one thing I do know for sure is that the greatest players want to play with and against the greatest players.
Speaking of the greatest players, the majority of them, if not close to all of them, will be at Augusta National next week. Let's start with Tony's chances. Based off of your knowledge as a man who has played Augusta and knows the game of Tony Finau, how does Tony's game match up with this course, and what are the chances that, I'll just say, come Sunday, he's got something to say about this?
He very well could. Tony's game matches this course exceptionally well, and his record here proves it. He's got a couple of top 10 finishes. Remember, 2019, when Tiger won his fifth. Who was in the final group of Tiger?
Our guy.
That would be Tony Finau. Yeah, exactly. And so Tony has done very well at Augusta. Tony authored one of the greatest sports comeback performances ever in any sport. This is up there in the conversation with Kerry Scruggs doing the vault in the Olympics on a broken leg. Tony went out after obliterating his ankle in the running down the hill in the par 3 on Wednesday. He went out and he shot a 65 and then made the cut and then finished in the top 10 on 1 foot in the Masters that week. It was unbelievable what he was able to do. He's got a very strong track record at Augusta. He knows his game fits here. And I've talked with him about this, and he thinks that when he gets a major, that it makes sense to him that it happens at Augusta. Could very well be this week.
One follow-up about Tony. What will you be looking for round 1 to indicate he's in a good space next week?
Hitting the greens in the right spot to be able to putt offensively instead of defensively. You can get a green in regulation at Augusta and still be very much in defensive mode if you're on the wrong part of the green for that day's pin placement. If Tony is putting his second shot, and Augusta is a second shot course, if he can be putting his second shot in position to putt offensively instead of defensively, he'll be in the mix on Sunday.
All right, Paul, before I set you loose, there are 14 golfers that have odds that are plus 3,000 or less, okay? So I'm going to read you the list. I want you to give me your thoughts on the favorites and then give me a name or two that's outside of the favorite cut line that you think will compete. So, of course, you're no surprise at the top. It's Scotty Scheffler, it's Rory McIlroy, it's Colin Morikawa, it's John Rahm, it's Ludwig Oberg, it's Bryson DeChambeau, it's Xander Schauffele, it's JT, it's Hideki Matsuyama, it's Joaquin Niemann, it's Patrick Cantlay, Victor Hovland, Brooks Koepka, and Jordan Spieth. So those are your favorites, okay? So out of that group, who do you like? And then maybe a couple of names kind of off the radar to watch out for.
My heart out of that group not only likes but pleads for Rory McIlroy. I want to see Rory complete the career Grand Slam, and he is in a better place now statistically than he has been in a long, long time going into Augusta. Plus, he's been winning, and again, recent form is one of the top indicators of somebody who has a chance to win. I do like JT, what he's doing lately. Now, look, Scotty is an obvious choice for what he's done at Augusta the last 3 years. The problem is, recently, he hasn't been quite Scotty. Now, maybe he finds it this week at Augusta. He's very clearly comfortable on this golf course. But so hard to repeat. And so even for Scotty Scheffler, he just hasn't indicated this year that his game is ready to repeat at Augusta. So I would look at Rory McIlroy. I would look at JT. We've talked about him recently. His ability to go low is showing itself again. And boy, howdy, that is a remarkable skill that he has. And if that comes with him this week, next week to Augusta, look out for him. I like Daniel Berger's game. Daniel Berger has, to answer the second part of your question, he has a really strong second shot game, and he has been trending well lately. Plus, he's healthy. He hasn't been healthy in quite a while. So he's one to kind of keep look out of the side of your vision for Daniel Berger.
All right, good stuff. What's coming up, Paul, on the program tomorrow?
We're going to be all about the 50th anniversary of the 75 Masters. We're going to have Guy Yoakum, Utah Golf Hall of Famer and the Golf Digest legend, who has written extensively about the 75 Masters. He'll be on the show. We're going to be talking and then we're going to be doing a lot with the drive, chip, and putt, and these three very cool Utah kids who are in the drive, chip, and putt, including, of course, Nicholas Miller.
That's like Michael Jordan's son being named LeBron. It's like wild, man. Okay, Paul.
No.
That's a great story. Thank you for the time, sir. Travel safe, okay?
Thanks. We'll see you soon.
All right, Paul Pugmire, Utah Golf Radio, coming up tomorrow on the station. Time now for our Uinta Golf leaderboard update. You can stop by one of the 5 Uinta Golf locations or visit worldwidegolfshops.com for the latest deals on Callaway AI 10-time smart clubs, Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X, the new TaylorMade QI35 Woods, the Ping G440 drivers, and more. It's our good friends at Uinta Golf. It's the final tune-up before Augusta. It's the Valero Texas Open at TPC San Antonio. It's their Oaks course. Brian Harmon is through 13 today. He carded a 66 yesterday, and he's 5 under through 13. He has a pretty commanding 3-shot lead over Keith Mitchell. Harmon's at 11 under. Keith Mitchell, after carding a 64, is even through 10. He's at 8 under par. Matt Wallace, Sam Ryder at 7 under par. The aforementioned Daniel Berger, in addition to Andrew Novak, Carson Young. They're at 6 under par. We'll get you some notables here. Patrick Cantlay at 5 under par. Keegan Bradley chipped in for an eagle just now. He is 4 under par, as is Francisco Molinari, Jordan Spieth, Maverick McNeely, and Ricky Fowler. So is Denny McCarthy, 4 under par, a crowded spot. Tony Finau carded a 69 yesterday. He is even through 13. That's good for 3 under par. Alongside him is Zach Johnson and Cam Young. Max Homa is going to miss another cut. He just fired his caddy, and he's having just a tough year, man. Poor kid. All right, 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. We're going to switch gears from golf to the NFL. The NFL draft is right around the corner. Coming up, Thor Nystrom, friend of the show, stops by. A little more hoops with Dave McMiniman in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll say goodnight at 6 on a Friday. Happy Friday to you. Good to have you with us. On the Drive with Spence Checketts on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Going to bring in Dave McMenamin coming up in a bit, one of our NBA celebrity reporters. But let's switch gears now. The NFL draft is right around the corner. Friend of the program, Thor Nystrom, joins us on this Friday afternoon to talk a little pro football. Thor, how you doing, man?
Great. How you doing?
I'm well. I appreciate the time. So this is like your time of year, right? This is when you really kind of dig in. What's the past couple of weeks been like for you?
We will sleep in May, but it's always interesting getting, especially you get deeper into some of these profiles and you start like, why isn't this guy talked about more, or vice versa? Like this dude is way overhyped, and just developing your own opinions about some of these guys. It's a great time of the year.
I want to ask you about a local kid, Jackson Dart, who played his high school football out this way and landed at USC, of course, transferred. And, it's interesting to hear the takes on him because it seems like you ask 10 different people, you get 10 different takes. Where do you have him ranked, and where do you think ultimately the fans out this way that have followed Jackson Dart can expect him to go?
I have him QB3, and I think it's either going to be late on Thursday night or it's going to be pretty quick on Friday night. So you're talking late first round to early second round. The thing of the top 10 hype, I'm not there with it. It only takes one though. There's some thought that he would be a good fit in that new system that Kellen Moore is installing in New Orleans. There might be some interest there. I'll believe it when I see it if he's a top 10 pick. But either way, for me, qualitatively, late first, early second.
Shedeur Sanders through today at his pro day. Of course, we are formerly Pac-12 Colorado buddies, now Big 12 Colorado buddies. So we've seen Shedeur here quite a bit. Where do you think he goes? Where do you analyze him in this class? And what do you think his floor is?
Shedeur, it's sort of the opposite. It feels like, at least the public narrative, as far as the directions of it against a Jackson Dart. But, for me, I will believe that Shedeur falls out of the top 10 when I see it. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's going to fall out of the top 5. But, you have this crappy quarterback class, and the evaluation of Shedeur, you put it up against all these other guys, it's just cleaner. I mean, it's just like people that watch him and evaluate him. I feel like the people that get lost in the weeds and stuff, so people that bring in their preconceived notions about the Sanders family and that sort of stuff and the perception of it. But if you can remove yourself from that and just watch the games in a vacuum and then just look at the data against the other dudes, he was the most impressive quarterback in this class over his career. It's not me going out on a limb. It's literally just the fact. He started all 4 years. His teams were always good. At Jackson State, they turned that thing around real quick. And then, Colorado, you take over. It's one of the 5 or 6 worst FBS programs, not one of the 5 or 6 worst Power 4 ones. That team was terrible when they got there, that 1-11 team. They also nitpick him. It's like, oh, he had good receivers and this sort of gimmicky thing. He played behind terrible offensive lines at Colorado in an offensive scheme where the defense knew they weren't going to run. So you had the opposing defensive line knew they could pin their ears back the entire game, and just and the penetration you would see on his film right away. He figured out ways to work around that. I like his functional mobility in the pocket. Another one of the crazy criticisms of him, where it's like, all right, guys, stop. Was when people were like, oh, he's not a good athlete. It's like, yeah, the son of one of the greatest athletes in the history of the NFL is not a good athlete. Okay. Like, because he doesn't run out of the pocket, like a couple of, he doesn't break containment, then he's running downfield. And the reason why is he uses his athleticism to make people miss in the pocket when he has to, which he unfortunately did more than most at Colorado. He's really, really good at that. And when he is scrambling, he gets up close to the line of scrimmage, you're starting to run out of time. He has a very cool quirk where he will stop in front of that line of scrimmage and he'll just plant himself there and wait for a guy to get open. If he hasn't seen one yet, he does a really good job of keeping his eyes up when he's moving around. But when he is rushing towards the line of scrimmage, when he is scrambling, you will see the defenders, it's a natural impulse to get sucked downhill, right? Because, the games that they played in the past, you always see the quarterback run past line of scrimmage. He uses that inclination against defensive backs. Right, he will stop on a dime there. Wait, someone's going to get sucked down, and now he has an open receiver. I really like his game. I like his pocket presence. I don't understand why he gets criticized for that too. And The elite thing about him, of course, it's accuracy and placement. You can put that up there. You look at the last 5 quarterback classes. There are not a lot of guys that can compete with Shadir Sanders in those 2 categories. So big fan of his game.
So tell me where you think he lands. And again, I'll just reiterate, where do you think his floor is? And I'm a Jets fan, okay? And so I wouldn't mind, because I'm with you. I wouldn't mind if he fell to 7. I don't know if that's a chance, but what do you think? Where do you think he lands, and what do you think his floor is?
I know for a fact Cleveland likes him. I'm not saying he's going to go 2, because Cleveland also very much likes his teammate Travis Hunter. I think that's a discussion right now. The Colorado Pro Day that you were alluding to, they had a whole huge contingent from the Cleveland Browns organization that was out there that included their owner, and every major person in that organization. Of course, you get to take in Travis, but also evaluate Shadir there. But very close eyes on him, and Shadir would be a really good fit for Stefanski's offense as well. Coming out of the NFL Combine, I talked to an NFL source that told me, do not discount the possibility that Cleveland walks away from this draft with both Travis Hunter and Shadir Sanders. And at the time, I was like, "There's no way." And he was telling me the Shadir sliding possibility in that scenario. You pop Travis Hunter at number 2. Let's say that Shadir, let's say that I'm wrong, and he gets to 14, 15, somewhere like that. Cleveland has all the draft equity in the world in this class. Just look at all the picks they have. They could easily get up to 15, 16 if that happens. So that's I'm going to call that one out. Cleveland, there's a shot still. They take them at 2 for sure. But if not, and if I'm wrong about the other thing about him sliding, Cleveland's in play for that too.
So everything I've read, Thor, and I'll cede to you because you're the expert, is that Tennessee has done their calculation. They've landed on Cam Ward at 1. Are you in line with that storyline? You think that's how this is going to go down? And what do you think if that's their choice?
They absolutely want us to believe that, which it might mean that it's the truth, and might mean that it's not the truth. We have seen some very clever smoke screens in the past. One that I could evoke that for this one. San Francisco wanted everyone to know, 6-7 years ago, that they were going to take Mac Jones at number 3 or were they at 2 or 3? I forget. But and they ended up taking Trey Lance it was 3, wasn't it? But they were putting it out there. It's going to be Mac. It's going to be Mac. It wasn't going to be Mac. It was like thou dost try to tell us who you're going to pick in advance too much, right? So Tennessee is giving us they are giving us all the indications in the world that they will take Cam Ward. And that only means one of 2 things. Unfortunately, we can't say in advance. They want us to believe something, and we'll see if they end up following through with it.
And yes, as a Jets fan, I will selfishly kick the tires with an expert, as I do every time we talk pro football. What do my guys do? Like I said, I would not mind them grabbing Shador if he's there at 7. But what do you think happens with the Jets at 7?
The good and the bad thing is there's enough holes there where you do not have to get myopic with the pick, right? Like the board is sort of open to you. Will they try to get like the singular offensive dude in Tyler Warren, the guy that simply a ball mover, right? The offensive chess piece sort of a dude. I think that's one possibility. Obviously, there's needs on defense there as well. You're going to get someone to play next to Quinnen, Kinlaw left. Whether it's IDL, whether it's offensive tackle, you could use someone across from Fashanu and try to take care of that for the next decade. Receiver, obviously, the stuff there. To me, it's somewhere in there. I would be surprised if it was Shadir just because of the outlay they gave Fields over a multi-year deal, although I realized it was only 2 years and it's not crazy money. So, technically you haven't crossed it out, but with all the other holes there, I would assume and I would expect for them to go a non-quarterback position.
Do you think there's any chance? I was reading a piece in The Athletic today, somebody covering their draft that believes, like you just alluded to, Tennessee, this is a smokescreen, and they're willing to move that pick. And, like the Jets, Tennessee has a lot of holes. Do you think there's any chance they move off of one for more valuable pieces?
Well, Tennessee for sure, if they can get that offer. And this would also, the theory of they're not decided yet, but they want us to believe that they are. This, if that scenario was true, that would be something that you would do if you want to listen to offers, right? Like, oh, we found our guy and we're, blah, blah, blah. And you're hoping that a team that's obsessed with Cam Ward then is gonna make you an offer. We'll have to see on that. But yeah, if Tennessee gets a legitimate trade offer where they feel they're getting value, they're gonna make that trade. But right, like I just think that as far as the Jets at 7, I think they're an interesting trade down possibility because of all those different holes. And then, of course, you have new decision makers that are sitting in those seats now. You brought a lot of new guys into the front office. Want to put your mark on things. And Rick Spielman, one of the guys near and dear to my heart, who used to work a mile away from where I'm sitting right now. That dude loves to trade down and get extra picks. We make fun of him here because he every single year it seemed like he had 3 or 4 7th-round picks that he had accumulated through it. But there are teams that are going to be looking to move up, and I think some teams that would surprise people. The 49ers are a team to watch out for to make a big move up the board in round 1 because they have an enormous amount of draft equity. They have made all these changes to their offensive skill guys, and they want to restock that. There's not a receiver I don't think that they would be targeting. I've been told to watch out for them moving up for Tyler Warren. So that's and even they like Ashton Genty too. And I know that this would, blow people's minds. It's like you already got Christian McCaffrey, but they don't play football like the other teams do. They play positionless football on offense, right? It's like every time they go back to the huddle, it's like you shuffle the deck as far as the next play where everyone's going to line up. Like, I just enjoy watching them because it's always like, well, where's, when Debo is on, where's Debo going to be this play? Where's Ayuk going to be? Kittle, they'd line up all over the place. McCaffrey could be out wide. He could be in the slot. He could be they move guys everywhere. And so it opens up the potential possibility because when I was told that, I was like, there's no way they got McCaffrey. It's like positionless football. You could play those 2 guys together. So like, but a team to watch out for potentially, maybe the Jets would, could potentially be involved in that if a guy like Tyler Warren gets their pick.
I want to ask Thor because, it may be an easy answer. It may just be Travis Hunter, but who do you think is the best prospect in this draft, regardless of position? If an NFL team called you and said best player, regardless of where he plays, who would you say and why?
For me, for sure, it is Travis Hunter because of that 2-position thing. Travis Hunter, if he was just a cornerback, he'd be my CB1 in this class. If he was just a wide receiver, he'd be wide receiver 1 with the ball in this class. And the fact that you get both those things in one package, you can start to make an argument qualitatively for his value against a quarterback, which is sort of unique. If you check both those boxes on your team, you can start making that qualitative argument. He's different. That dude's different. My comp for him, I'm the guy that has the 500 player big board with 500 player counts. I just love comps. I had to comp him to Shohei Ohtani. There wasn't another football player that I felt comfortable comping him to. That was the closest I could get as far as encapsulating my thoughts on Travis Hunter. And Travis Hunter wants to be Shohei Ohtani. I was laughing earlier this process. People would ask me, they'd be like, all right, what position is he actually going to play in the NFL? It's like both ways. And it'd be like, no, what position actually? It's like, no, both ways. Like he wants to be the Shohei Ohtani guy. He is not going to want to, like if a team was like, Travis, we only want you on one side of the ball, he'd be like, I don't want to play for you. So, I mean, that's what you're going to get. And for sure it'd be Travis Hunter.
So is your understanding that teams that he's speaking with are completely open to allowing him to play both positions?
1,000%. Yeah, the interested parties there. Yeah, you're going to be playing him both ways right away. You wouldn't draft him otherwise because you're going to have a ticked off employee on your hand who's one of your organization's most important people right from the get. So yeah, that's what's being discussed. The interesting thing will be after the draft, whatever team that ends up being, be it Cleveland, be it the Giants, could it be the Patriots? Could he get down to 4? The interesting thing will be the discussions inside that building, which the coaching staff almost might get locked out of these. It's more going to be between your analytics department and your medical team of trying to look into the data and figure out a guy with that frame. What is the amount of snaps that the human body at that size could take before we will elevate his injury risk, right? So if we're going to play him 85% of the snaps, defense as a rookie, how many additional ones, what percentage of the snap share on offense can we do before it's dereliction of duties, right? Where it is so many snaps, you can almost guarantee that he will suffer a significant injury. I think it's going to be, you're going to be between 80 to 85% of the snaps on defense as a rookie, and I think it's going to come out around 40 to 45 on offense as a rookie. And I think those snaps, you're going to have a Travis Hunter playbook. You are going to be looking to get Travis Hunter the ball. He is not going to be out there to run block. And then they're not going to put him out there on the early downs either. I don't think that's one way that you can save him. But, yeah, crazy valuable player at the next level.
Thor, before I set you loose, typically we have more Utah football players involved in the draft process that have a chance to be, one of the, maybe a first-round guy. We don't have many this year, but I'm going to ask you about Brant Kuithe, who was really the better pro prospect prior to Dalton Kincaid landing on campus and then kind of usurping that role after Brant went down. And he had another injury a year ago, and I'm sure at some point throughout your analysis you've landed on him because when he was healthy and Cameron Rising was under center for Utah, he just looked the part. He had the productivity. He's a great kid. He's been a friend of the station for a long time. And I see him listed as the 7th rated, tight end / H-back on one of these lists. And it's going to be tough just because of the health. But what do you make of this process for Brant Kuithe? And do you think at some point maybe he will have a pro football career?
I hope he does. I had never met him before Indianapolis, but the thing you're saying about him being a good kid, you could tell that at his podium session. We asked him a couple, I don't want to say like hard questions, but like non-softball questions, about, you're on the older side, what your injury history is, the way the NFL will view that, you're not an inline guy, and like that's, basically make the case, your skill set as is, and stuff like that. And super duper respectful, with the answers and thoughtful and the way that he saw that stuff. But he knows he's facing a bit of an uphill climb here. But that's a guy who, that all the adversity he's overcome, I think he's ready for that. My comp for him, I think you guys will, at least it's around the area of the country and it's recently. Remember Dallin Holker from the last
Sure.
class?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the guy I called the Incredible Holker. There's a lot of similarities there in terms of their frames. They both have the long arms. That they had the same thing that I liked about them, which is they're really crafty, clever route runners, right? And so they managed to make the little bit of separation that they need short and intermediate area. It's not guys that you're going to send down the field, but they're guys that potentially can be used to paper cut defenses at the next level. And can Brant stay healthy enough for that, right? Like, and he can overcome the measurables because of that craftiness, because he has the longer arms than you would expect from the frame. It gives him a bigger catch radius than defenders are expecting. Explain some of that production, but can he stay healthy enough to show NFL teams that route running imagination and then the reliability when that ball's on the doorstep? I can be that paper cut guy for you. That's what we're hoping for. Hopefully his body doesn't betray him.
Thor, where can our football fans go find your work, buddy?
You can find me, the scouting reports, the mock drafts, the 500-player big board aforementioned on Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, and then you can find me on Twitter at ThorKU.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the time. I know you're busy. We'll set you loose, okay?
Always good talking to you guys.
All right. Thor Nystrom, little NFL draft, less than 3 weeks away. I always appreciate his time. All right, we'll catch a quick break. But before we do, Porter, did you say we have somebody on the line, a guest with whom I'm unfamiliar?
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
What's his name?
I think it's Ryan.
And where does he work?
Ryan
from the Dish Professionals?
There we go.
Wow. Where have you been, Ryan from the Dish Pros?
To the ringer.
Where have you been? No comment.
Let's see, South Korea, Thailand, Bali, Malaysia. I've a lot of places.
Right.
Long trip.
Well, my
jet lag.
My guess is you were able to watch television on your trip. Is that fair to say?
I did. I actually utilized the Dish Anywhere app a couple of different times to watch some games and so forth. And yeah, it was great.
Well, welcome home. I'm going to give you the space. What do you want our listeners to know? Because it's been a while.
It has been a while, coming back into it, haven't done live calls for a little bit, but, I got great content just from today. I had a customer that had called in a little frustrated with their cable bill. And so they called and said, hey, you need to lower the bill. And they raised it from $330 to $350 something a month. and he was able to call us, and we were saving this customer close to $200. Like it's amazing what this offer is. Call us up today. Take advantage of the deals. Price guarantee for 2 years. We also have these pre-qual gift card offers that Dish has mailed out. It's like 60, 70,000 of them. And a lot of times when people call in, we can find that offer even if you missed it in your junk mail. And we'll attach that to the promotion on top of everything. Call us up. Take advantage of the deals. Get Netflix free for 2 years and have us install your satellite now. 424-DISH. 801-424-DISH.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Professionals. Dave McMenamin is our guest coming up next. Thor stopped by today courtesy of IFA Country Stores. They have everything you need to care for your lawn, no matter its size or shape. Their 4+ lawn care program can promote a healthy green lawn for you this summer. They're the same products used at many local sports fields, golf courses, and city parks. You can consult IFA's team of experts for your yard this season. Visit them online at ifa.coop or stop by one of the 18 Utah stores today. IFA Country Stores, helping to grow the things you love. Dave McMenamin joins us coming up next right here on ESPN 700. We'll launch into the 5 o'clock hour of the program about 30 minutes from right now. University of Utah men's basketball program grabbed a recruit, or I should say a transfer today, out of the transfer portal. Puzzle piece number 2 in place for AJ, but we'll do a little NBA now with one of our favorites, Dave McMiniman. He's very famous. He's a celebrity reporter on a Friday afternoon. Hello, David. How are you?
I am well. I reject your introduction because I make it about the story. The NBA is famous. Basketball, the players, the coaches, the executives. I am but a vessel to convey their stories to our listeners and readers.
A conduit of NBA stories. Dave McMiniman joins us. I apologize, Dave. Well, you're kind of a big deal, and we feel honored that you would join us every time you have a little bit of time. Let me start right here as we stretch a little bit to try to make something local interesting. You are a voter, right? You vote for the postseason awards, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So I would imagine you were one of a number of people that received a package in the mail from Jazz PR to consider Isaiah Collier for All-Rookie. Now, in a normal year, I'm not sure that he would be in consideration. The rookie class, I mean, I love the Stephon Castle kid. I was hoping he fell to the Jazz, quite frankly. But Isaiah, ever since he was given the starting nod from Will, has been one of the real bright spots. He's got to get that jumper dialed in, but he is 32% from three since the All-Star break, which isn't great, but it's better than 23, which is he was prior to. Do you think our guy here on the ground, Isaiah Collier, has a shot to make one of these teams?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I casually keep track of the Rookie of the Year race with the NBA.com rookie ladder. They weekly have their top 10 guys in contention. I think they have him at 8 right now, and if you're naming two teams, that kind of puts him right in there. I think some of it, of course, we have to acknowledge it hasn't been the best rookie class. It hasn't caught the league by fire, but certainly I got to see him up close in college a couple times, checking out Bronny James, and he has that kind of build where you're like, oh, could he translate this to a Marcus Smart type of game on both ends? And obviously this Jazz season has been about doing things to prepare themselves for the future, of course, but I think I have a hard time seeing myself not putting him, on my ballot, probably on the second team.
Since and that was a very professional way of putting the approach of the Utah Jazz. Very kind, Dave. Doing things to consider their future. Certainly unserious about winning. I wonder what sort of because I was told by somebody with the team that the one player that's taking this the hardest is Walker Kessler. And you can tell at times when Will Hardy wants to get honest that this is not something that he's enjoying. He's got 2 years left, both options picked up. He's part of the brain trust. He's part of the deal. He's part of the future. But in your history of being around the game, covering the game, what sort of toll does losing like this take on young players? 50-plus years of Jazz basketball, this is the first team that's lost more than 60 games.
Yeah, it's brutal, and I think we've spoken about it before. If it becomes a prolonged kind of purposely staying in purgatory in order to extend your window as a team, kind of not quite ready to jump into the double dutch and get the ball rolling, I think that is extremely difficult on players and coaches who are trying to establish their career and recognize that their reputation could be tied to an organization that doesn't align with what their hopes and dreams are. And while there are guaranteed contracts in the NBA, that makes it, I think a better situation than someone, say, in the NFL finding themselves in a rebuilding situation. It is still a fleeting experience. And, I think we have to remind ourselves, though, it can change on a trifle because the NBA, you have 5 players on the court at any given time. If you get one of those difference makers in the draft or, a trade falls in your lap, all of a sudden you could have, a guy from one year to the next that makes the other 4 guys they're playing with that much better, and your stock changes. And again, I'm sure it's no secret, like the Jazz want to be in on the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. And if they get him, you're going to get a guy who just took Duke to the Final Four, possibly to a championship on Monday, and carry on those winning ways and be a guy who clearly it's not about him. He seems to be a guy who can fit in with any type of talent. Maybe things feel a lot better for Walker Kessler just 6 months from now. And so I think that is kind of where there has to be a degree of patience with a process like this, because when we look at the draft board, you do see some special people at the top this year. That said, it is a lottery, and if you end up with fewer than 20 wins, it's not like you get a 100% chance at the number one pick. The best you could do is 25% chance.
So one more thing here, and we'll stay in the space of what you just referenced. If the Jazz are able to have Lady Luck shine upon them in a way that they never have before in 9 trips to the lottery, and number one is Utah's, and they use that on Cooper Flag with Lowry Markin and Walker Kessler, Cooper Flag, some exciting whites for the market. So there's that. But what I wanted to ask you, David, I know you're not a scout, but, I mean, obviously you have a lot of great draft analysis over at the .com and also on the shows that you do. Of all of the comps that you've heard for Cooper Flag, for Jazz fans that really want to see this happen, who kind of tracks the most? What sort of player do you think he could be if he stays healthy and is developed the right way when it's fully developed?
I think the floor is someone, I think this name should resonate with Jazz fans, is someone like Andrei Kirilenko, a 5-tool player, defensive-minded, doesn't necessarily need touches on offense to still have an extreme effect on the game. The ceiling could be someone like a plus-side Scottie Pippen, who can obviously play in the open floor, be a lockdown defender on the perimeter, but with the ball skills to be able to turn a turnover into a fast break where he is the man on the ball and able to finish it himself or set up a teammate. And again, I think the kind of DNA of both those players I mentioned is neither of them were about personal stats. Neither of them were about kind of the ego side of things and needing it to be all about themselves. Of course, there were moments like that with Pippen, but we'll forgive him that. The overall arc of his career was a team player. That is something that anyone you talk to about Cooper Flag says that's what he's all about. And I was in Vegas last summer when he was competing with Team USA, and I got to only a small portion of that session where he played against the national team, the senior national team, I should say, was open to the media, but I got to speak to some of the coaches when I was there, at nighttime and talk to them about what they saw in the gym, and they were singing the kids' praises. And so if you could possibly get someone like that, I think it's a harsh pill worth swallowing for a season to put yourself in the running, because you get someone like that, all of a sudden now you're looking at a window for your franchise of 5 to 10 years of hope and excitement and, really changing your trajectory.
So we saw a little Warriors-Lakers last night, little LeBron, Steph. I think the broadcast said for the 56th time these two go at it. And look, Dave, it might be time to start talking about Golden State a little bit differently. I think, 20-4 with Jimmy Butler. And, the way Draymond's looked lately has also been something I don't think has been talked about enough. He is back to being that guy defensively. Steph is still Steph, even at that age. Kuminga's healthy now. I've talked to you a lot, and it's probably just time to say it's OKC officially and everybody else, but do we need to start looking at Golden State differently than we had prior to the past 24 games?
I got to spend some time with Draymond the night before the game, and he was in ESPN kind of doing the car wash and meeting with folks, doing some interviews, and his belief level right now is through the charts. And I know Draymond is someone who seemingly is always talking about something. So on some level, maybe you should take it with a grain of salt. But to me, or a guy that's been around 4 championship teams in that Warriors locker room, the way he's talking about them right now is like he's expecting them to make a deep run. I'm not saying we could, like we will. And that combined with the record, combined with Steve Kerr seemingly finding this starting lineup now that he feels like is the right mix and match of guys. They're 13-0 with the small ball group with obviously their big three and Jimmy and Steph and Draymond, and then you have Brandon Przemski, who was fantastic last night, and Moses Moody, who's kind of filling that stretch role that they were kind of unsure whether it would occur or not. And then you get the likes of someone like Jonathan Kuminga come off the bench, and he had a great game against the Lakers. They are legitimate. And, of course, when it comes down to it in a series, you have Steph Curry, who's proved when the chips were down this past summer in France, there was nobody better. And you have a championship head coach. Like, I think they are a very serious contender. The thing is, because the West is still so crowded, they're a game behind the Lakers for fifth. They don't have this tiebreaker with the Lakers, even though the Lakers lost last night. The Lakers still won the season series. And so all of this work that they've done thus far could still end them being in sixth or something like that and playing the Denver Nuggets in the first round. And Denver Nuggets are a terrible matchup for them, and it could be all for naught. So it's kind of like both. I'm speaking out both sides of my mouth, but they're legitimate. But the West is so tough that they could get a bad draw, and they're out in the first round.
All right, Dave, before I set you loose, I know you got to go, so be as short on this as you want. And my guess is you might be very short, because I am going to ask you a question about a player that you've covered forever and a company that signs your paychecks, and we're your affiliate in Salt Lake. You know the deal. LeBron goes on McAfee's show. There's the back and forth with Stephen A. I have no idea why Windhorse caught strays when Brian has done nothing but stand up for LeBron and be fair to him for years. My question to you is, why did we had Bill Oram on this week, and Bill got into a thing with LeBron a few years back. Why do you think LeBron even entertains any of this, what I perceive to be utter nonsense? I'm just curious.
It's a really fair question, and it's not even that I'm reticent to answer it. I just don't quite know. LeBron is someone that in many respects I admire, certainly for what he's been able to accomplish, but his dedication to his craft is something I think anyone in any field can kind of draw some sort of inspiration from. At the same time, some days he's about being a statesman and a role model and an ambassador. And some days he's like a dude in a barbershop. And I think the version of LeBron that we saw in Pat McAfee was very relaxed. He did almost an hour and a half interview. Both, I think, the host and LeBron, they were, casually dropping curse words here and there. And, what you heard from him was certainly not a polished version. And sometimes that can be really revelatory. In this case, obviously, Brian and I wrote a best-selling book about LeBron together. He's a really good colleague. I respect his work. I found that to be unfortunate. But yeah, I even as I've covered LeBron and his teams for more than a decade now, I wouldn't ever venture to say that I know the full scope of the guy. We were afforded so many opportunities to be around a guy through media access, but there's all sorts of layers to the life that we aren't privy to. So I would say that the overall picture for the guy is still overwhelmingly positive, and I think you could find a lot of positive in that 75-minute interview he did with Pat McAfee, but there's going to be some slip-ups here and there, and I think some of the things he said, certainly his comments about Brian Windhorst, kind of unnecessary.
Dave, thank you, sir. Appreciate the time. Have a great weekend. We'll chat soon, okay?
All right, take care. Thanks.
All right, Dave McMiniman covers the NBA for ESPN. Find him on Twitter at MC10 is where you find him. Yeah, just kind of an odd thing. Dave would know the LeBron angle as much as anybody. All right, University of Utah men's basketball program has locked in a transfer. He's a good player. We're going to tell you about it coming up in just a bit. But we welcome in Ryan from the Dish Professionals. All you have to do is give him a call at 801-424-DISH. You can save a grip of money on a grip of different things. What's going on, Ryan?
Definitely, and the offers are still here. We got this promotion that hasn't gone away just yet. Getting Netflix free for the next 2 years. This is the ad-free version. This is the neat little extra, because this thing by itself is worth $430+ Guys, listen, we had a cable customer called in today. They had actually called and complained about their bill, asked them if they could get their bill lowered, and they raised the bill even more, like $30 more. Ended up saving the customer over $200. This sounds crazy. That's $200 a month. Price guarantee for the next 2 years. Guys, you can do the math there. We're several thousands of dollars plus the extra money for Netflix. And if you call us up today, we can even see if we can get a gift card attached to that on top of everything, or at least dinner at JCW's. Call us today. Take advantage of the offers. Let us get you the best TV solution for the best price. 424-DISH. It's 801-424-DISH.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Pros. More coming up on the other side on a Friday drive right here on ESPN 700. Tony Finau just made an ace, and he needed it. It is the final tune-up before Augusta and the Masters coming up next week. It is the Valero Texas Open. And, excuse me, the PGA Tour just sent out on social that Tony aced 16. And prior to the ace, he was at 1 under, and that would have been below the cut line. So Tony needed an ace on 16 to get back above the cut line. He's now even for the day. He's 3 under par, tied for 36th place. Brian Harman continues to lead the pack. He's 7 under for the day after carding a 66 yesterday. Harman has a 6-stroke lead now over Keith Mitchell, Matt Wallace, and Sam Ryder, who are all at 7 under par. Sam had a 63 yesterday, which was 2 off the course record. So, Tony Finau, hole-in-one. What's the closest, Porter? Do you have a near hole-in-one? Maybe you have one. I've never even asked you. Do you have an ace? And if not, do you remember the closest that you ever came?
No ace for me, but I have come very close one time. One time I had a lipper on it was a par 3, hole 9 at Tuhei. And it rolled right at the cup, Spence, and it was dead on. But when you got the flag still in, there's some obstacles there. It kind of hit the flag, rolled around the cup, and then straight back towards me. So it did like the full 180. Oof. And then came directionally straight back at me. I have seen a few hole-in-ones. I golfed around with Marco Mira, and he drilled a hole-in-one on that hole that I was just talking to you about, and then nearly hit another hole-in-one in the same round. I almost saw 2 of them in one from the former Masters winner.
That is impressive. To get 2 in one round. I don't know what the odds are.
It would have been really cool.
I'm trying to think. I think it's hole 6 at Bonneville. Shout out Bonneville. Miss ya. Can we get by the way, it was raining earlier. It wasn't supposed to rain today. Now the sun is shining a little bit. I need to get back up to Bonneville. It's been too long.
Yeah, I don't know where that rain came from. But
I think it's 6th at Bonneville. It is 6 because 5 is the par 5. And I do not have a hole-in-one. Last year, I actually thought that I had made it. That's how close it was. But drove up, and it was hanging right there, tap-in birdie, which is always nice. But I feel like I'm due. This year, you know what? I'm going to be in the vortex. I'm going to be in the vortex. I'm going to manifest a hole-in-one this year.
I should add some context to my near hole-in-one. It was an awful shot.
Oh,
it was
a Trey hole-in-one. Trey has one, but apparently it was just like a worm burner that rolled in.
Par 3, usually you'd think, get your 8-iron, get your 7-iron, and get it up in the air, get some spin on it, get a nice – no. It was a par 3, I think 180, 190 yards, and the shot I hit was headed towards the cart path on a line. It wasn't any sort of air under the bar or any sort of air under the ball, and it either hit some sort of shrub, tree, something on the right side, and then the hole was just a perfect little dog leg to the left, and it just rolled and rolled and rolled, and then, like I said, it lipped right out at the end. So not a good shot by any means, but somehow was my closest to an ace.
As they say, no pictures on the scorecard, young man. An ace is an ace. So we'll see. But Tony needed that hole-in-one.
I did tap it in.
Well, there you go. Tap-in birdies rule. Tap-in pars rule, okay? Let's be clear. Sometimes a tap-in bogey is nice. But Tony Finau with a hole-in-one on 16 today at the Valero Texas Open to put himself on the right side of the cut line. So as long as Tony does not bogey 17 and 18, he will make the cut and hopefully have a nice weekend in preparation for the Masters. Tony's coolest Masters experience playing alongside Tiger Woods, final round 2019 when Tiger won the thing. Still one of the most phenomenal accomplishments in the history of pro golf. All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. Final hour of the program for the day and for the week comes your way. Coming up next, Utah men's basketball dialed in a very exciting transfer portal edition. One of the highest ranked transfer portal guards is now coming to Salt Lake to play for Alex Jensen. We'll tell you who that is during the 5 o'clock hour of the program and do a little hoops with Zach Harper. So keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, let's get it. Drive at 5 time. Friday afternoon style. 5 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. Happy Friday to you. Your commute home on a Friday afternoon / evening starts right about now. We do have a little sunshine now in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. Had a lot of cold rain earlier here in downtown, right outside of our Broadway media studios. So happy weekend. Congratulations. You made it. It is weekend time, so happy Friday. The 5 o'clock hour of the program today is brought to you by our friends at IFA Country Stores. As the weather warms up consistently, it's time now to start thinking about your lawn. IFA Country Stores has everything you need to care for your lawn, no matter its size or shape. Their 4+ lawn care program can promote a healthy green lawn for you this summer. They're the same products used at many local sports fields, golf courses, and city parks. You can consult IFA's team of experts for your yard this season. Visit them online at ifa.coop or stop by one of the 18 Utah stores today. IFA Country Stores, helping to grow the things you love. Busy night in the world of pro basketball. The NBA, some fun NBA action last night in Los Angeles. Golden State taking care of the LA Lakers. The Lakers are back in action against the Pelicans tonight. The Jazz are getting ready to tip off right now, taking on the Indiana Pacers, Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana. The Pacers are very much serious about winning. They're 45-31 in the Eastern Conference of the NBA. So, Jazz, of course, not trying to win. First team in the 50-plus year history of Jazz basketball to lose more than 60 games. Pacers find themselves 3 games ahead of Milwaukee, 3 games behind the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference standings. Of course, Final Four right around the corner. It resumes tomorrow with a couple of games to determine who will play for the national championship. It has been since 2014 since an SEC team played for a national championship. That team was the University of Kentucky. Well, Florida or Auburn will advance to play for the national championship. So the best team in college basketball, the best conference in college basketball this year has been the SEC all year long, and one of their 2 teams will have something to say about who lifts the banner at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. Ironically enough, the last time and the only other time all 4 number 1 seeds advanced to the Final Four was in 2008, where the Final Four was played in, yes, San Antonio. So that's the early game coming up tomorrow on CBS, Florida and Auburn at 4:09. And then Houston and Duke will take the floor after that at 6:49. At least that's what they say. It depends if the first game is done. So Houston-Duke, your later game at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. So the Final Four will get back going coming up tomorrow in San Antonio for the right to go play for the national championship. University of Utah men's basketball program with some exciting news today. Terrence Brown, a rising junior after finishing his sophomore year for Fairleigh Dickinson University out of the Northeast Conference, a conference I know very well. A lot of schools in the footprint of where I grew up in the Northeast Conference. Central Connecticut, shout out Joel Garriak. Nobody knows who that is. LIU. So, no, it is not the strongest college basketball conference in America, but Terrence Brown is one of the highest-ranked transfer portal guards available to get got, and the University of Utah was able to snatch him today. Terrence, as a sophomore last year for Fairleigh Dickinson University, was their best player by far. Averaged 21 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, over 2 steals per game. He was one of the top 10 scorers in the country last year. 2.2 steals per game, obviously can guard on ball. Shot 45% from the floor, 76% from the line, and only 30% from 3. You want to see that up a little bit. Donovan Mitchell, his last year at Louisville, shot 30% from 3. Let me be clear. I'm not saying Terrence Brown is Donovan Mitchell, but Alex Jensen, Rafael Chilius, Wes Wilcox, those are the staffers that we know of as of now, able to grab Terrence Brown, who received interest from a number of different schools. And according to On3's transfer rankings, Terrence is a 4-star transfer portal guard and has a composite ranking of 91.33 out of 100. So, it's interesting when you look around the landscape of who's left playing, namely Auburn in the Final Four. So Johnny Broom, who finished second to Cooper Flagg in AP Player of the Year. Cooper Flagg was named the AP Player of the Year earlier today. He's only the 4th freshman to get that award. But Johnny got the second amount of votes. And Johnny is a transfer from a small school who's become one of the best players in college basketball. He played at Morehead State. and then transferred to Auburn ahead of the 22-23 season. And, that was the Jabari Smith, Walker, Kessler Auburn front lineup. And Johnny Broom has turned into a really, really good player. So only time will tell. This is a transfer addition that on paper looks really exciting. But we have to see who else is playing alongside of him. So we know 2 players that will play for Utah basketball next year, as Keanu Dawes withdrew his name from the transfer portal. He will come back to play for Utah for AJ and his staff. And now Terrence Brown, rising junior transfer out of Fairleigh Dickinson University, who is a 6'3", 175-pound combo guard, played his high school basketball in Minneapolis, Minnesota, before going to New Jersey, where FDU is located. So a couple of years for FDU. His freshman season, he was named all-conference as far as the freshman team goes. Played 22 minutes a night, averaged about 8 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, steal and a half per game. Three-point shooting percentage, 25%, 44% from the floor, and 70% from the free throw line. So he'll have technically 3 years to play, although how many players actually stay to school for 3 years now? As a rising junior, of course, junior year, senior year, then grad transfer year, if that's something he's interested in. So the big news of the day today, as we try to understand what this team is going to look like next year, is that Alex Jensen and Rafael Chilius, according to reports, Rafael Chilius is the person who was familiar with Terrence Brown. Not sure what the genesis is of their relationship. But, of course, when Rafael Chilius was hired, all of the guests that we've had who know him, including Richard Smith, Smitty, 40 years in the NBA, of course, knows Rafael Chilius and had some really interesting insight there. It seemed like the consensus about who he is and the role he would play as Alex's lead assistant is he is a dynamite recruiter with great relationships in the ecosystem of AAU, in the ecosystem of high school, and of college as well. And Rafael Chilius most recently was in pro basketball. So kind of all 4 levels there, and those are the type of people that you want on your staff. So Terrence Brown is a Ute. He is on his way here to play for Alex Jensen and his staff. I want to remind you what we talked about yesterday. Yesterday was the beginning of what's called a dead recruiting period in college basketball, which only means this. Just no in-person visits. That's all it means. Now, in the day and age which we live, and COVID brought us Zoom calls, COVID brought us the ability to digitally connect in a way that's a little bit different than it was a number of years back. You don't have to have an in-person recruit. I will say I'm pretty impressed that Utah was able to snag him without bringing him on campus. Of course, there will be an NIL component to this, and unclear what that looks like right now. So that's the news of the day today. The University of Utah men's basketball program grabbing the second piece of the puzzle as of now to understand what they're going to look like next year. The women's Final Four is tonight. Texas, South Carolina going at it right now. It's very early. 8:20 left in the first quarter. 4-2 Texas leads. Make that 6-2 Texas leads. By the way, while we're here, can I just say that the men playing 2 halves is so dumb? The women have it right. It should be quarters. That's just me. A lot of rule changes that I would implement in college basketball. I essentially would have it go uniform to the pros, as I've talked about for a long, long time. 6 fouls instead of 5. No more possession arrow after jump balls, and make it 4 quarters, not 2 halves. I think it's silly. Ken Pomeroy is with me on that. All right, so Jazz in action tonight. Busy night in the NBA. We did do some NFL draft earlier on as Thor Nystrom stopped by. Asked him about Brant Kuithe. You know, this is a weird draft cycle, not just for Utah, but really for in-state. I mean, I was looking around this morning to prepare to interview Thor today, and there really are no BYU or Utah players that are thought to be first-day draft guys. Tyler Batty had a really good combine. Junior Tafuna, of course, former Ute, is a guy that also had a strong showing at the combine, then Big 12 pro days as well. Jalen Royals out of Utah State, wide receiver. There's just Karene Reed has still been recovering from his injuries. And Brant Kuithe, one of the reasons I wanted to ask Thor about Brant, and Brant is still trying to make his way back. And so any team to take a look at him is going to have to look at him as a long-term project. Before Brant had his injury issues, he was the superior pro prospect to Dalton Kincaid. Now, Dalton, of course, stepped up and became a very complete and excellent tight end here at Utah and went on, and he's had a couple of really solid years for Buffalo. Last year, not as great for Dalton, did have some injury issues. So, some interesting stuff earlier from Thor Nystrom about his thoughts on whether or not Brant Keithy will get a look from an NFL team. Certainly, as a non drafted free agent, then they're going to have to be patient with him, and hopefully he can get back to full health. And then, of course, can he stay healthy? And what sort of pro prospects does he have based off of his inability to stay on the field over the past few years at the University of Utah? Unsure there. Interesting stuff about Jackson Dart, though, of course, played his high school high school football at Corner Canyon before going on to USC, ending up at Ole Miss. Thor believes he is thoroughly entrenched as QB number 3, and he has a shot to go off the board in the first round, which would be a really cool thing to watch Jackson Dart head into the NFL. All the calculations appear to be in for Tennessee. Looks like they're going to go Cam Ward at 1, although Thor was pretty adamant that if the right deal comes their way, based off all the holes they have to plug, he wouldn't be stunned if Tennessee moves off the pick altogether. The Giants are rumored to be interested. Of course, they signed Russell Wilson as a Band-Aid. The Jets at 7 need a quarterback. They signed Russell Wilson's backup. Could be worse if you're a Giants fan. You could be a Jets fan. Shedeur Sanders threw today at the Colorado Pro Day, and Travis Hunter actually ran some routes as well. Interesting tidbit from Thor. He believes that NFL teams are talking to Travis Hunter in the spirit of allowing him to be a two-way player as a cornerback and, of course, as a wide receiver, which is something you never see anymore. I'm not sure what the toll on Travis Hunter would look like if he's asked to do that in the NFL opposed to what he was asked to do in college, because he played a ton of snaps in college, but this is a different level altogether. So the NFL draft less than 3 weeks away, and it's one of those weird cycles where we just don't have a lot of prospects that are thought to be first-day guys. But, it only takes one. Only time. All right, wrapping up the program for a Friday afternoon. It's the final segment of the show for the day and for the week. Happy Friday to you. Congratulations. You made it weekend time. Hope you have something fun planned. The weather is supposed to be fine, like April fine, 50 degrees. We got 52 tomorrow for the Utah football scrimmage coming up at 10 o'clock at Rice Eccles. They're allowing the media to watch. Look at them. Wow, how exciting. And then Sunday, 57 and sunny. Next week in the 60s. And then, we'll see because it's April in Utah. Porter, we were discussing earlier whether or not you or I has had a hole-in-one, and the answer is no. Are you prone to outbursts where you use language that your mother would be disappointed to hear you use at times on the golf course?
Just knowing my mother, she doesn't give a hoot.
Or your hypothetical mom that cares about swearing.
Right. Yes. I am prone to outbreaks. The fact that we have gone through however many years I've been on the radio without anything like that kind of crossing over is quite the feat. Yeah, I'm prone to that for sure. I don't have much of a filter. I've done a decent job of it staying on air.
Real quick, did you just say she doesn't give a hoot?
Doesn't give a hoot.
You're like 30 years old. You don't give a hoot? What are you, 67? Gives a hoot?
You know where I'm from.
I know. All right.
We're 30 years behind.
Here's why I bring it up. Ryan McCormick, who is a golfer on the Corn Ferry Tour and has not been playing very well. He's had a lot of outbursts this year that have been captured on social. And for the upcoming Corn Ferry Tour tournament this weekend, he has decided to play the tournament with his mouth taped shut. So he does not have angry outbursts.
Interesting. I bet he's going to shoot a terrible round.
Well, and also it's not that, that doesn't protect you. Like, it's not hard to take the tape off your mouth. Like, I don't think this feels like it's more of an attention grab. I don't think that's going to be very effective.
I was going to say, is he like sponsored by one of those companies that's doing cold plunges and taping their mouth while they sleep? Is he like combining it with that, or is it all about the cussing?
I've actually had, because I've got a couple of, let's be careful here. It's Friday. I have a couple.
Careful.
I have a couple of family members and friends that have kind of leaned into the manosphere type, cold plunge, Andrew Huberman, sunlight exposure. And look, some of that stuff is very valuable. Let me be clear.
You should preface it with some of that.
But the tape on the mouth thing, so my brother, Nate, who is the CEO of the clothing company that we talk about often, Roan, and I have a bag of Roan for you that I just need to bring you. And Nate rules. He's awesome. He's a smart kid. All my little brothers are smarter and more accomplished than I am. But, we're on a family vacation. He's like, hey, bro, have you ever tried taping your mouth shut when you sleep? I'm like, no, that sounds horrible. It's like, I do it every night. So he had Roan tape.
Oh, wow.
That he said, look, just try this, okay? It was Roan tape. It was like some sort of, all those companies, they just do collaborations with each other. Like, hey, here's a Roan shirt. Send me a pair of shoes. He never pays for anything. It's wild. Like, he has figured out life in a way that I wish I could.
That's part of the game, isn't it?
It is. Then we should be better at that. I don't think we're very good at that.
We're not selling anything, Spence. We're selling air. We're selling thoughts.
Wait a second. We are selling entertainment, enlightenment, and information for 4 hours every single day on the radio.
Right. I'm just saying it's hard to trade that for things. They don't know our value in the business world. They don't know what we bring to the table.
We are undervalued. That's well said. Anyway, long story short, grab some of the tape. I go to lay down. And I was exhausted because our family vacations are never relaxing. We have to get up at 6 and do the things until 10. And I felt like I was drowning.
Oh.
I woke up in a panic because I couldn't breathe. Because I guess when I sleep, I tend to breathe out of my mouth, which I didn't know.
I'll play devil's advocate for the sake of the show. Now, if you're not like really trying to get to the next level as an athlete or something like that, the differences that you will see from like taping your mouth shut or whatever, not going to do much for you. But if you tape your mouth shut and you can't breathe, that probably means you got something going on, maybe a deviated septum or a broken nose from way back that is bothering you. The real thing is to go get that taken care of so you don't have to tape your mouth shut and so you can breathe clearly through your nose, through your mouth, through all of the above and then you get all the oxygen you're supposed to get. I've seen some runners do it. I think that makes more sense than sleeping. But when you're trying to get the airway open, training your body to breathe through your nose is not a bad thing. But yeah, I think it's kind of silly when guys are sleeping with it.
Somebody's crushing a little Andrew Huberman.
Listen, I
like
to run. I like to get out
bad.
there. So I'm just saying, to have a good, to know where you're at with like your breathing, your sinus rhythm, whether you're doing it through your nose or your mouth is actually, there's some science behind it. But again, like I said, I'm not going to be taping my mouth shut to sleep through the night.
Did you get your sunlight exposure this morning?
No.
Are you going to be rubbing your face with a banana peel when you wake up tomorrow?
Oh, I haven't done that one yet.
Did you see that guy's routine? It went by, like I had no choice but
it's
to
not
see
real.
it. Of course it's not real. My favorite.
Also,
but hold on. My favorite part of that video is him at work. He's like, bro, we got to get in for 10,000.
Yeah.
Like it is all such a facade and so fake. It breaks my heart that anybody falls for these charlatans. That's what sucks.
My favorite part, and I'm sure you guys have seen different videos and different versions of this, but it's this guy with his like morning routine, right? And he wakes up at 3:57 a.m. and by 9 a.m. the only thing he has done is washed his face and gone to the gym. Now he's made it like this cool video that's getting a bunch of social media views, and it looks like this really deep and awesome routine. He literally took 6 hours to wake up, clean up, and go to the gym.
The whole thing is just it's so fraudulent. It should be illegal because the problem is with all the people that watched that video, enough probably were convinced that it's real that he probably got some subscriptions and made money because people don't know any better. They think what they see is real online. They pay for it, and these charlatans are stealing money. It's beyond bothersome to me.
Well, and we're at a point now where it doesn't even have to be like you have a partnership with this brand, you have a here or there. You're getting paid just for engagement on social media. So even if you're doing things that are strictly bait, right? You're strictly trolling people or just trying to get them to click and comment hate, you're still making money. We're in an interesting place in that regard, Spence. Interesting place.
When I saw that video, I actually considered doing one of my own to actually show you exactly what mornings look like for me.
I was gonna say, you guys would have a field day with me.
Just scrolling on my phone. It's like 9. I'm like, do I really want to get out of bed? Like the dog comes and jumps on me, scrounging together some sort of breakfast situation, and then lean into it. I want to release like actual real morning routine videos so people feel better about themselves. You do not need to wake up at 4, dip your head in ice water, do the sun routine. Like you don't need to do all that stuff.
For example, I am a 30-year-old man working a job that I dreamed about doing when I was younger. I'm in good shape. You could say, I'm doing okay in that regard, in the personal, sphere. But if you see me on a Monday morning, say, 9:30, 9:45 a.m., I am scraggly. I'm stumbling out of my front door. I probably don't say a word for first hour or so of my waking moments. It's not pretty. It's not like aesthetic, but it's how it really is. And the people that are on the internet, now let's see, maybe some of them are being authentic. I'm sure a lot of them are, but there is so much inauthenticity trying to sell you on something or a course or something you should probably try to find a way to navigate it. Because like you, I have unfortunately seen a fair share of people in my network that have, I wouldn't say leaned into that stuff, but definitely been taken by it a little bit.
Bro, we got to get in for like 10,000.
At least 15, bro.
That's what he said at work, which he probably doesn't do anything, but he was rubbing his face with a banana peel. What an idiot. Anyway, do not fall for these scammers. I'm sorry if you have. We have misbehaved. We got to get out of here, Porter, before we get our weekend started. What comes our way on a Monday show?
Yeah, on a Monday show, as we do each and every Monday, the latest on the Utes with our guy Josh Furlong. Tom Haberstroh stops by for the NBA Daily Assist. We'll have some sound from Ute Spring. We have a scrimmage that we're allowed to be at on Saturday, so we'll have some stuff from that. And then as baseball season starts, the women's basketball tournament continues. Tony Parks will be in studio for an entire hour. Bees, jazz, really any direction you want to go with that guy.
All right, that'll be a fun Monday show. Tune in for that. Special thank you on this Friday edition, Adam Mikulich, Zach Harper, Paul Pugmire, Thor Nystrom, and Dave McMiniman. It's a lot of guests, a lot of content, but the good news is if you've missed any of it, it's up online for your consumption. Website, ESPN700sports.com. Download the ESPN 700 app and take us on the go. Then please become a supporter of our podcast page over the weekend if you have some time. Subscribe, rate, and review. Say nice things, give us all the stars. You will be eternally blessed. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts, available wherever you get your shows. He's Porter, I'm Spence saying, and I have a great weekend, guys. You earned it. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you on a Monday Drive. As always, you can find it right here on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN Radio Network.